This is Unrelegated, recording live from our studio at Hudson FC. And, on this bottom of the table Tuesday, I like to call it. I mean, terrible Tuesday. I mean, what do you, it is what it is. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But first, I want to thank you guys, Devon from Atlanta United Fan TV and Felipe Cardenas from The Athletic for joining Unrelegated. Kelly is off taking care of some business that she needed to take care of, although she was at the Soccer Over There event yesterday that Felipe ditched at the last minute.
My bad.
For
Daddy duty.
For the kids, and Felipe's like, yeah, I have a kid.
I have to take care of my own kids.
I'm doing my work. Like, what do you want? So, yeah, that was a great event. If you weren't aware, yesterday, Monday night, the day before this recording, there was a sort of fundraiser hosted during the Soccer Over There podcast with Nick Alifi on the Soccer Down Here network. And that had Jason Longshore there, John Nelson, Nick, Mike Conti was there, Chris from Iron Tooth was there, donated some posters.
Kelly and Jessica as well?
Yeah, 3 Taverns gave $1 for every Rowdy and Proud beer bought, all that stuff, and some raffle prize stuff like that. Raised $1,000 over 2 hours.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm talking
So
about.
that's pretty incredible. I mean, if you're making $500 an hour these days,
dollar bills, y'all.
It's pretty,
especially for such a great cause.
Yeah, you're either in sanitation or something illegal, probably. I don't know, but or a high price attorney maybe, and I don't know what those people make anymore.
Or Magic City.
Or Magic City, we'll leave it at that. That's $1,000 was how many $1 bills were in that trophy, could fit in that trophy.
Exactly.
It's probably also what they spend on Purell.
So guys, thanks for joining me. Not great times, but a lot of, exciting things to talk about, though, not just related to Atlanta United, but in the league, and we'll get into some of this stuff. Before we do, I wanted to sort of talk to you, the viewers. For those of you listening, we're on Atlanta United Fan TV now. And first of all, if you've come and given a like, subscribed, all that stuff, thank you. Appreciate it. And so we're a part of the Atlanta United Fan TV family. Those of you who've been listening to us, you've heard us talk about this time and time again. But this may be your first time watching our podcast versus Five Stripe Weekly or some of the other things you've seen, vlogs. You may have seen my face pop in and out here and there.
The kit reveal where we work together.
That's right. We did that great kit reveal vlog. That was a lot of fun. We did with AJ and Kelly and I and Mark. We did that little pop-up
at Wish,
at Wish ATL, where the MLS Cup was, and they had the jewelry there and some photos and stuff, or pictures and photos, iconic photos laid out through the gallery, things like that. But who are we? Who is Unrelegated? Well, Unrelegated, we started a year ago. Kelly and I were briefly sitting in on Miles of the South until Sam could make his return. He's in Athens, and he was also on the radio for a while out there for quite a while. So we were on there with Josh Bagriansky and Eric Quintana, and then we decided to spin off, do our own thing. We wanted to focus more on the culture. The guys from Jersey South Soccer are great, but they get press passes. Josh is great talking about tactics. They have a very sports radio feel.
They're great with stats.
And Kelly and I had an idea to really embed ourselves in the first year. 17 different, I think, away matches, or 16. I think it was almost every single one at 13 different locations throughout the year. And so we basically embedded it, did all these ways. And we're still going to do that stuff. We've kind of changed the formula a little bit because now we have Jessica Charman, who's also with us, and they do Queens of the South. So now this podcast used to be weekly. It's now bi-weekly, and then Queens of the South is bi-weekly. So we alternate.
Content.
Yeah, so we're creating new things.
There's a lot of content out there.
And Queens of the South is very different because it's just it's very laid back. It's Kelly and Jess literally sitting on Kelly's couch, just hanging out.
Isn't it also the first all-female podcast?
As far as I know, yeah.
As far as I know with ATL United.
Awesome. I know of podcasts in MLS world that have a male-female. So we weren't the first to do that. But I don't know if there's any all-female podcasts.
And then over and above that, just Jess with that Reading,
Oh yeah,
it's all about that action.
She likes to say things like "squeaky bum" and things like that.
Instant credibility, right there.
Yeah, Reading season ticket holder,
and
hardcore.
college soccer, soccer player.
Well, she played also in alongside a lot of women who are now professional athletes and stuff over in the system, over in Reading and stuff like that.
And she will break your shins in 5-a-side.
Yeah, and she was, by the way, the one who help lead the charge for that fundraiser for the kids for Soccer in the Streets ahead of the ATL Nations Cup this Sunday. So big round of applause for you, Jess, and everybody who contributed, and thank you for coming out. That was a cool event.
And of course, we all know Kelly as, Miss Francis Superstar.
Right. But to get back on track, essentially, we focus more on fan culture, supporter culture. We've done things where we've gone down and done a live podcast, like actually during a NPSL match. At Georgia Revolution versus the Silverbacks at the time, down in south of Atlanta.
Yep.
So, we do a lot of events and try to intermingle with a lot of the other podcasts and things like that. So we hope to do some cross-collaboration stuff as well this year and continue to do that stuff. Maybe we'll jump on Home Before Dark. Maybe we'll start to have those guys on over here as well. That type of stuff. So really, we'd like to bring in people from all aspects. And
it's really all about the fans, man. Having it all in one place.
It is. We're not your tactics. That you can go elsewhere for to dive into XG and tactics, and you just have to be on Twitter for 5 seconds to see that stuff. But that's not really our vibe. I mean, Kelly and I enjoy watching the game. We, like I didn't play it outside of when I was a youth. I didn't, play in college. I didn't study the game. I didn't read books, stuff like that, right? So for me, it's more about the fan experience, the experience of just being able to sit back and watch it, and we talk about those things, and we talk about what's going on because we're plugged in. Kelly's in the supporter section like every game. I used to alternate in there quite a bit, but she's sort of my plug into there as well, and we just I'm in a supporters group. We have people that are listeners that are in supporters groups, and we talk and put our ear to the ground, and we hear things, and we like to talk about stuff that's going on, and we'll talk about some of those things in this podcast. So thank you for joining us. We hope that you enjoy this alternative content that gives you a place where you can come, and even if you aren't a fan of us, it's just another place that you can come, and you're going to realize that you're just going to have more options, more things available to you on one channel. So
there's a lot of fun to be had here.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for watching, and as you say, like, subscribe, share.
Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share. Leave a rating so we can appear higher in your podcast pop-ups. But let's get to those matches, man. Let's talk about this.
And we're gonna dig in quite a bit into the Saturday match. But first, Felipe, you have big news. You've been with The Athletic for how long now?
I started as a freelancer in June.
Okay.
So last June, yeah.
Okay, so right when they started, right?
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, the Athletic Soccer, the vertical, launched right after the World Cup. Obviously, it was in the works before that, but it made its official debut like pretty much after the final. And Atlanta was one of the first cities that was kind of like part of the launch, one of the first MLS cities that was part of the launch, and so I was just lucky enough to be part of it. Like at the time, a lot of people asked me like, "How did you get into this?" And I ended a 14-year career in advertising last Thursday, but I've always written. I've always been involved in the game from I played growing up. I played in college, and I had a blog that I just started for fun. Probably I think it was summer of 2017, and it was like global. I was writing about Champions League. I was writing about anything. Like I had one article about MLS, and then I connected with the Dirty South guys and with Rob Ussery. He asked me, he's like, "Hey, anytime you want to write, you can write." And so I did some pieces on Atlanta United Year One, and Paul Tenorio from The Athletic happened to read it. Like he read my stuff, and he was like, "Hey man, are you available?" So that's how it started, and it was kind of like a 10-month relationship as a freelancer, and then just shortly, a couple weeks ago, we finalized a full-time position for myself and other writers, which is
I saw that announcement. There's a lot
for me. Yeah,
it's an awesome staff.
It's a stacked team at The Athletic. A lot of guys with a lot of experience, not only covering MLS but just covering the game from a journalistic point of view. From all over the country, D.C., Seattle, Boston, Chicago, and then I'm here in Atlanta.
For people that may not subscribe to The Athletic, or they don't read a lot of stuff outside of what's put out by Major League Soccer or Doug
ESPN
Robertson, through a traditional newspaper, why is this such a big deal? Why is it such a big deal that the Athletic have hired full-time staff writers?
Well, because it's just so rare in our industry for soccer writers to have full-time positions that include like benefits, something as important as benefits that you can get at a full-time job. That's why so many of us were freelancers for so long, because it's a tough industry for soccer in America. It's still a growing sport. We're constantly, I think, trying to earn a little bit more credibility. As the league grows, the sport grows in the U.S. So it really is unprecedented for an outlet, an independent outlet like The Athletic, to commit to the sport in this way and hire 5 full-time writers, including a full-time writer that'll be covering the NWSL, the Women's World Cup, the Women's U.S. national team full-time. And so the commitment, listen, like The Athletic, it's not just soccer. We're talking about every sport in North America.
I saw that.
Right. You have big names in NHL, NFL.
Huge names
all over the place.
Yeah, that have come from Sports Illustrated, ESPN, that have been covering the NBA, the NFL, hockey, for baseball for years and years and years. And then soccer is kind of like the new kind of cool kid on the block, and we mean business. We want to be up there with the rest of the guys.
Why do you think The Athletic is different? For there are also a lot of people that have been around following MLS, following soccer in North America and lower leagues for a very long time. They've seen a lot of companies, venture capitalists come in, talk a big game, 4-4-2, this, that. You've seen them, right? They come and then they go.
Even most recently with Copa 90 US.
I mean, from the outside looking in, just the writing and the way things are done, the people that are the editors, the transparency, I feel a different vibe. But
right.
What, like to you, you're on the inside. You're seeing this firsthand. You're reaping the benefits of this. I mean, you gave up a full-time position. You must be confident that this thing's not going to fold in 3 months.
Right. No, I believe in the model, and just in 3 or 4 days being in kind of in the Slack channels and receiving everything from within the company, I think there's a real belief and a real commitment to just quality journalism and premium content. And I think we know we were just talking about it, that's what the fans want. They're consuming content.
They're seeking content.
They're looking for it. They're eager for it, but they're eager for good content. I think, especially in soccer in the U.S., fans are much more savvy. They're much more knowledgeable. They know that they can get anything for free, but The Athletic is a subscription-based model, and we know that. We're writing for the readers that are paying for a subscription, so we need to elevate the sport, elevate
the expectations
the
are
work.
high. Like, yeah. I saw tweets like from people that are like, "Where's my effing T-shirt?"
Yes.
Like, I am a subscriber. Yeah. I want my T-shirt. Like, like they could easily just go, I'm just gonna but no, they're being vocal. They're like, hey, it seems silly to use as an example, but I mean that's showing that they're invested, obviously, because otherwise they could have just, they don't have to say anything, they could just stop unsubscribe.
Now I have and I have a question. You've kind of seen the rise, and I really attribute it to NBCSN and networks like that showing Premier League, that you've seen the rise of MLS, based off the ability to watch more soccer.
ESPN Plus,
everything. I mean, and Bundesliga on Fox Sports now, and French League coming next year. I mean, all these other things are rising. So alongside that, you've also seen kind of a buck away from traditional journalism. Yep. So do you feel that like fan cams and fan interest have benefited something like The Athletic, where people, like you said, are running after content and seeking it out?
I mean, I think, to your point, yes. The fact that the game, the foreign leagues, the big leagues, the EPL, La Liga, are becoming just everyone's cup of tea, everyone's daily routine. You can turn on the TV, you can watch soccer.
From 8 a.m. until 4 p.m.
Italian soccer team Twitter accounts tweeting in English accounts. The Manchester City offering free content to people. If you want, you want videos.
Schalke US having a brew house party on
they're
Saturday,
giving it away now, where it used to be you got kicked off Twitter if you used one of their videos.
Right. And I think what The Athletic understands is that not everyone is a diehard fan. Not everyone has been following the sport of soccer.
I think the writing reflects that too.
Right. And so we're conscious of that. We understand that there are the diehards that are really into the analytics, the tactical aspect of the game. There are ones that are just getting into the sport, that really want to follow the team, just want to know everything about it from the inside. They want that lens that they're not getting maybe from just traditional game reports or daily tweets. And so, in my first editorial meeting on Monday, I got a taste of it. I heard stories that were being pitched from the other writers that I don't see anywhere else. Like,
do you think that also Do you think just like having quality players on the bench and being a deep bench, it puts pressure on the other guys? Do you feel?
Or do you have to raise up your game?
Do you feel more pressure now that you're full time?
Yeah. I think I personally, my wife was telling me the other day, she's like, you don't have to kill it your first week, and it's like that's what I've been telling myself constantly because they've
already seen it from you. You don't have to prove anything. Yeah.
No one puts more pressure on myself than
you're a first round draft pick, baby.
I got told that every time I got a new job, I eventually had someone, whether a manager or somebody, like, we hired you for a reason. Like, you don't have to keep proving yourself.
But at the same time, like we understand that the readers are committed to. They are paying a subscription. They expect to get that type of premium content, the knowledge that they don't get anywhere else. And so, of course, it puts a good type of pressure on all the writers to constantly go after stories and chase stories that they're not getting anywhere else, and that we know the readers can, relate to, and that are relevant to different types of demographics across U.S. soccer.
It's the ATL. You hear it all the time. Print's dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you see companies like Copa 90 US completely fall apart, right? And whether it's just poor management, bad investment, all of the above, the wrong formula, trying to copy formula in Europe and put it in the U.S., who knows? But it's just it's interesting to me to see The Athletic, and it's all print media doing so well. But is this something that, do you guys talk? Do you know? Like, is there talk of more like doing video content? Are you comfortable in your vertical and saying this is what we're good at? Let's focus on that.
Well, I mean, listen, the world will always need good writers. I mean, in every industry, and I know there was a time when the being a journalist was tough. Everyone was, quote, pivoting to video, and quickly I think the industry realized that yes, video is important. Video is kind of like the on-demand type of content that people enjoy. You watch it, you're in, you're out, you're done. Next.
The instant coffee generation.
Exactly. And so that's part of how we're consuming media at home as well. Like, you cut the cord, everything is like on demand. It's just it's an app, you tweet, or you click, you're out.
We binge watch
commercials.
Seasons now.
Yeah, like that's always going to be part of this industry. But I think at the same time, people really still appreciate quality long-form content.
I think you see it when someone like Joseph Martinez publishes something in the Players Tribune.
Yeah.
I mean, people go crazy for it because they're getting that look behind the scenes, right?
Kevin De Bruyne recently was...
Kevin De Bruyne was amazing.
It was excellent. Yeah. It was excellent because, it exactly. You could do an interview, but there are things that you connect with that are still in written form that are different from when you're watching a 2-minute video.
It's a testimonial.
Yeah.
And you know that for somebody to sit down and pick up a pen, and put pen to paper and edit their thoughts, there's more to it than just going onto a video and blah or so just showing everything in immediacy. Like you said, it's a difference in generations, and if you're going to take the time to actually put the effort into the writing, somebody should want to put the effort into reading it.
Yeah, I just like the interactiveness. Like in the app, it allows me to, and it may do it on the website too, but it allows me to rate the article, which means that you guys are getting constant cycle of feedback, and it can adjust accordingly.
Yep.
And that's, to me, that's where it's not just print. Like, you're taking and you're engaging.
Right. We learn from our metrics.
So it may not be video, but you're engaging with your readers. You're doing Q&As.
Yep.
You're doing these types of things. You're making yourselves available on Twitter. You're having conversations. So that's really great.
That's the most important thing because, if you see, we live in a connected world where, anybody can talk to anybody on Twitter. It just may not always be the nicest thing. Yeah. But when somebody actually responds back, you see how tones change real quick.
It also builds trust because when we, in the international football arena, and we'll talk about it a little later, like the PT stuff coming out, right? We don't know what to trust coming out of Argentina, and we have to rely on certain people, like a Joe Patrick, this person. Well, remember what he said last year; it didn't turn out in the last two things. So be careful with this guy. Versus, that guy is definitely credible, right? But we don't know because a lot of those guys, they don't tweet very much unless it's just rumors or whatever, and they're also contractors for other publications. Here, we're seeing and getting to know the writers day in and day out,
right?
With the same publication.
It is emerging technology. Like The Athletic is part of that that ecosystem, right? Of an app experience that people want to come back to. You know, there no ads, nothing that's going to like interrupt your experience. The fact that you can create your own content, you can follow your authors, you can read what you want. When
it encourages daily active users. That's
exactly.
You check back all the time.
And we're there, like me personally, like, and I know the other writers as well. Like we're reading the comment section. Some of us interact depending on, and we're not answering every single comment, but we're there reading.
I see George and your editor in there though too. Sometimes
George jumps in too. So you know, I think we understand that the reader is everything. You know, we want them to understand that this business is about them. Like, we understand that they are paying for the content. We want them to be satisfied. But at the same time, we understand that we're also reporting, and we're not writing just because we want to write. We're not doing puff pieces. We're not doing game recaps that you can get anywhere. You know, this is about what is really happening in my, you know, inside my team's locker room.
Well,
what are they saying?
Speaking to that, like, and you know, some people may be concerned because the idea behind pooling full-time resources is that you as writers can focus on more than just one team. So you'll be traveling, I'm guessing, in the Southeast to Orlando, possibly other places, doing reporting on other teams. Help explain, and then we'll kind of wrap this up, but help explain, like, how does this actually benefit us Atlanta United fans who've been getting all your content?
Right. Well, the first thing is that I'm not moving, so that's important. I still live in Atlanta. I love Atlanta.
We thought they just set you up an office at the training ground. So
no. I'm setting up a home office, though.
Yes.
So
at the training grounds.
Could have used that for tax purposes.
Yeah. So that's very important. But no, like my family and I, we've been here 9 years. This city has been great to us. It keeps rewarding us with opportunities. And so I'm not going anywhere. And the fact that I'm not leaving means that I'm still going to training. I'm still covering the team. But the commitment that the Athletic Soccer has made and the Athletic has made to the sport means that now we can chase any story around MLS. And in my case, I know that there will be an opportunity to speak to more players across the league, potentially players that aren't getting covered, that have great stories to tell, you know, that are playing on teams that are coming up or have been playing in the league for several years and have been performing at high levels, and we just don't know anything about them. So how does that benefit Atlanta readers? Well, I think that they're going to get to know the league in a much more intimate way. They're going to understand opponents.
A better knowledge base.
It's better knowledge. It's not just, you know, who are we playing this week? Well, you're going to understand, like, the personalities behind the teams.
You heard it here, 80% more Orlando content.
Where they came from. The other day I did think, I'm like, what will that first story about Orlando be? How will that be received?
Can you write under the ghost name Jordan Culver?
Exactly.
Let him go.
How will it be received? I'll be in the comments.
Exactly. You'll be there. But, you know, you talk about region, and, like, this was not a regional play by the Athletic, but, you know, just look where we are.
There's two new teams coming into the Southeast
Paul
region.
Tenorio was in L.A.
He was in L.A. He lives in Chicago.
Writing from L.A.
You're
national
also,
stories.
You're also about to get Nashville. You're about to get Austin. You're about to get Inter Miami eventually. Inter Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's true. Like, this region is just exploding with soccer and professional clubs with owners that want to be good right away, that are taking the Atlanta model, which is another way for Atlanta fans to connect to these teams and understand, okay, we started this.
You mean they're going to also win an MLS Cup and then go to last place the next?
First to worst. Life in reverse.
We want that model.
You want that model, right? I mean, but yes, I mean, we are privileged to be where we are. Who would have thought that, you know, years ago, that Atlanta or the Southeast was going to be this hub for professional soccer in the U.S. And not only in the U.S.
Can I say me, as a former ODP3 region player who told everybody to please come to my soccer matches when I was in high school?
There you go.
I kept telling them that soccer was eventually going to take over, and they're
like, why does that 18-year-old have
now.
a giant beard already? Like, what? Man beard right there in the field.
Beard bros.
But yeah, so I don't know where my next assignment is. I'm looking forward to finding out. I mean,
hopefully Puerto Rico or something. I mean, something nice.
I hear Belize is starting a team now.
Starting a Caribbean vertical.
You saying you wouldn't want to go cover Atlético Nacional in Colombia?
Well, my squad is América de Cali, so I would first love that. But of course, I would love to go to Medellin and cover
You could always go to
reigning-
Peñarol. You got to go to Montevideo.
Whatever it takes. I just need to talk to some scouts and, hey, there's a guy in Peñarol that needs to be interviewed.
Yeah,
Christian Pavon at Boca Juniors, I'm
there's
sure,
a-
is looking to make an MLS move.
There's a
at some point in
2%
time.
chance that Elaine is looking at this guy. You should probably come down here
Yeah.
and check it out.
But no, I mean, it's obviously my knowing Spanish, the dual language has been part of this experience, part
Can't
of my
hurt.
experience, part of my experience with the Athletic, part of the reason why, I think people have resonated with these stories that you're able to. I've been able to speak to the players in a more intimate fashion where we can just talk. And the other day at the FC Dallas game, there's just a row of UGA journalism students, and one of the things that they asked me was, what was just for advice. And I think when it comes to interviewing players, there is a moment of tension at first, and especially with, let's use Joseph Martinez as an example. Like, I think he sees me and he knows me, but every time that first minute when he walks in, there's still like a moment of like,
Journalista.
yes,
Yeah.
What are we doing here? What are you going to say? And so you really have to understand the psyche of the player, where they're coming from. Are they coming out of practice? Are they coming from? Are they in a slump? Is he at a point where he can't miss? Well, last year when I met him, he was, he hadn't hit the record yet, but he was on his way. And now the last time I talked to him, he had one goal in I don't know how many matches in MLS, but he's on a goal in the regular season. So I think he understands that.
2 after the Dallas match.
Right. Now he's on a second goal, exactly. So I think him and I know that we can talk about the sport. We can. There's a trust there, and that's the expectation moving forward when I reach out across MLS and talk to other players.
I look forward to you learning Portuguese, and then you can do. Is Nani up for an interview?
I mean, he probably speaks multiple languages.
I know he does.
Well, I mean, being at Man United for the longest time, they put their players through English classes, I believe. Now, quick question: is there a player in MLS that you haven't interviewed that you would want to this time? Maybe somebody at LAFC who
Who's
happens
the
to be
top of that list
That just keeps
on the
scoring.
whiteboard in your or written on the mirror?
I do have a list. And it's kind of a shout out. I don't know if you've heard of Trello, a Trello board. It's an
I
app,
have,
whatever.
yeah.
I mean, people use it across like tech. I use it to just my ideas are there, and so it can be a random idea, and I'll just go to the app and I'll add
You've
it
been
to
in the
board.
marketing industry too long.
I know, but it helps.
But it works. Yeah, that's
We're gonna have this idea board. Are you on Pinterest?
It's an idea. It's pretty much a pinboard.
Synergy.
Of course, Carlos Vela would be great, to get his perspective. But most of the people on my list are kind of like underground players that are role players on good teams. The young Colombian Atuesta that plays for LAFC. He continues to perform under a very high expectations in LAFC, under a very. I mean, Bob Bradley is one of those coaches that I think really demands a lot from his players. So, there's that. There's obviously the front three in Houston, and there are players and coaches, and they don't only have to speak Spanish. I mean, one of the better interviews, one of my best interviews and best performing articles for The Athletic was the one I did with Michael Parkhurst. So, it's the language is important. I tell everyone that doesn't think a second language will help you in your professional life that you're wrong. It always helps in anything that you're doing. And so, yes, looking forward to just reaching out and meeting new players, coaches, administrators, executives. It could be anyone at this point.
I have a request just because it might be the last chance that we get. On June 1st or before, could you possibly try to set something up with Bastian Schweinsteiger? Just because that's a name and a player that has meant something to so many mega clubs over the and the German national team. He's a World Cup winner. I would love to see somebody do something with us as a send off for Bastian Schweinsteiger. Bastian Schweinsteiger.
It's funny because
Paul may have dibs on that.
yeah, I know. They're close. I mean,
Well, I'm pitching for Felipe here.
it's funny because my one Basti story was before I think this was when I still had my blog, so I was just writing for my cousins and my family. I was in the Chicago airport in Midway, actually, and I ran into several Chicago Fire players, including Bastian Schweinsteiger. And I was starstruck, totally. And I went up to him, and I said, hey, man, pleasure to meet you. Do you mind if I get a picture? And so I gave my phone to just kind of probably a second teamer. I don't know who it was, but he was rocking the Chicago Fire gear. we took a picture, and he was very nice. We small talked for a little bit, and he left. Right. Later, walking into the bathroom, I ran into Dax McCarty, and so whatever. I think I tweeted that before I was even involved in this community that is MLS and Atlanta soccer. And me like with my arm around Bassi saying this is today I was this close to winning the World Cup was what I wrote. And a friend of mine retweeted and then added like, oh, did you see what happened later? And it was a picture of random fans. I think they were like kind of had their arms around unknown like Chicago Fire second teamers, and the person taking the picture of that crowd was Bastian Schweinsteiger.
He's just a genuine dude.
So, but the fans didn't know who he was. The fans.
Can you hold this camera,
please? Can you please hold this and take a picture of these guys that look like professionals?
That reminds me of the train story with the guy whose parents were on with like Paul Pogba.
Oh yeah.
Very similar.
Absolute knob.
That was a great tweet thread. Yeah,
very similar.
That's Paul freaking Pogba.
So speaking of, since you were just at the training ground today, and some stuff has come out. And so I want to get your insights on that since you're now, full time. I expect you to know all the things now.
Everything, all the stats, the XG,
all the things, all the player tidbits. Matt Doyle just recently wrote that he doesn't believe a transfer is off the table. Doug Robertson scrambled to do a sort of a follow up. He reached out to the team. They said all they would say is that he's here through the summer.
Right.
To me, that's a signal that there's still something going on.
There's
some legs to this.
Darlington.
Yeah. What's your feeling? What's your feeling about it?
Well, I think today he was caught off guard. I'm talking about Darlington Nagbe. I think he was caught off guard by the question
because the Matt Doyle quote that spurned it. The
reporter that asked it was Chris Vermeister. He mentioned Matt Doyle had written this
Chris
piece
from Pro Soccer
USA. He brought it up. He said, do you have anything to say to that? What's your status? And it really caught Darlington off guard. And I think his answer was very honest but very revealing. Kind of his non-answer was very revealing.
What was his answer?
That he's here, he's showing up.
Oh, right.
Okay. He's not sure if maybe that's a question for the club. So
maybe ask the team.
So it was.
He defaulted to a very canned answer.
Obviously, I think
versus or
I'm here working every day. We're getting better. We've got a match on Saturday.
That's what you expect from like
canned heat.
Like if Julian Gressel said, "Well, just ask the team," we'd all be freaking out right now.
Right. I mean, to Darlington's credit, like that was I think that was the last question of the scrum with him, and so he. I personally asked him about training. Like I was there, I saw it. It was a very spirited and very intense training session where what we were able to see was. Kind of two groups first doing shooting drills where they were like,
and this was in your article that was just published moments before you came on with us. Yeah.
So
working on finishing, focusing on finishing.
So and it was like they would create a triangle, one touch triangle, lay off, shoot.
Converting XG.
Yeah, exactly.
Practice.
But it was very intense.
Yeah.
And when players would score and when they would finish, like kind of everyone kind of erupted and they were very into this drill, right? That's where George Bello was participating. And so that's when I tweeted, I'm like, oh look, George Bello looks great. He really did look really good.
The mystery injury's back.
He has played with ATL United too, but for some reason is always listed on the injured
thing. He looked good in that. And then from there they moved to now they like the uptick in the intensity really went high in this one. It was so like a small-sided 2 goals, 2 goalkeepers, 2 team like 3v2 type of drill where you're just running at the 2 defenders and trying to score. And once you score, you're off the field. The next group goes, and it was like really intense, really intense. George Bello was taken out of that drill, and while everyone was kind of in that. He was on the sideline, kind of stretching his quads, stretching his groin. So that tells me that he's not 100. I don't think he's 100%. I don't think he'll play this Saturday either.
Okay.
They won't risk that. But Darlington was there playing hard. There was a moment where PT and Ezekiel ran into each other, and it sounded like pads crashing into each other, like a football practice.
Wow.
And I remember Chris Vermeister was like, you'd never want to see $30 million of quality running into each other.
That was the sound of
like
smacking into Barco's braces.
My stomach literally just dropped as you said that. Like I don't care who wins practice.
Yeah, but it was really intense. It was, and I think what that says, and that's what I wrote.
The South American guys love that, right?
Yeah, and LGP, there was one time where he was like, he's always into these practices, but like Anderson Asadu just was winded at one point, and he was on LGP's team, and they were trying to get back, and at one point it was 3v1 against LGP, and they finished. And while he's like backtracking in this drill, he's yelling at Anderson like, get back. Anderson couldn't get back. He had no legs at that point, and LGP just completely ripped into him. And so
is that just rookie hazing?
Maybe
or
somebody should rip into LGP when he gets hung out to dry.
Let's talk about scissor tackles past the midfield stripe.
I think LGP just yells at everybody.
Yeah, I think it's equal treatment.
Everyone gets it. So after that,
usually during the games he's yelling at the ref.
Right. But to your point, I asked Darlington in the scrum, like, how important is that, the level of intensity coming off of a loss, and that's what the article that I just wrote about is about. Like, you can talk about progress all you want. You're still not winning. You're still in last place. You're at the point where you played that card. Okay? You can't play it again. You can't play it ever again and say we're still making progress. You're the defending MLS champions. You need to start winning. Like, the question I would ask the fans is, at this point, are you okay with just ugly wins, or is it to the point where no, we need to perform, we need to have 20 shots on goal, we need to win games? They're not getting it done
on either side.
On either side of the ball.
If Dallas
right now
takes 3 shots and scores 2 goals, you cannot come back and tell me, hey, we took however many 20-plus shots we took to not convert. That's not a positive stat, because then you can always come back to your sub-1 points per game and your sub-1 goals per game in a league where that's got you in last place. You're first to worst.
They're winning the statistical matchups consistently.
22 shots.
Yeah, and it's and that's fine.
XG continues to rise.
so those are the questions that I posed to the players today. Is that, coming off the conversation I had with Joseph Martinez, where he was very candid about the fact that the confidence was dropping, and what happens when you feel you've done everything. You've done everything right. You've created chances. You've hit the bar. You've done. Take care. You've done
bad luck tomorrow against Arsenal versus Wolves. All Arsenal, baby. Go Gunners. Much love to Fran.
Thanks, Fran,
from Hudson
always.
FC.
Letting us to live in the studio booth A.
No, what do you do? What is a professional at this level when they feel like they can't possibly do anything else? They're working their asses off in training.
Well, what are they saying? This is a good segue, because Frank de Boer, and we talked a little bit about this before the podcast, he's out there saying this is the best match we've ever had. The guys are confident.
Drives me up the fucking wall.
And as nutso as that may sound to your average fan, I'm also thinking, well, if this is keeping the dressing room, is this just keeping their heads in the game? If this is what, maybe surely you can't speak for every single player. Mm-hmm. Some are going to be pissed off, some are not, whatever. But if overall they feel they're improving, and this is helping him by coming out to the press to say this, helping them feel like they are gaining momentum to just look forward, I'm all for it. If we continue to see improvement, and that's working. But at some point, when you come out, if we have another 22 shots against a Colorado, and we have if this happens again, like, what's the number of times? Is it this?
There are
2,
ways,
3 more matches where we do this?
No, they can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wrote about today. Like, he played that card on Saturday. This is the best game we played. We created a lot of chances. Then the players kind of followed up the same narrative.
Because next step up from that is, well, if you're improving, and this is the best game you've ever played, then you better be winning.
Now you need to win. So that's they can't that narrative of progress. Good, you used it. Next game it has to be about winning and performing at the level that is expected of this club. Okay, that's what everyone signed up for, is winning, playing attractive soccer, and dominating this league. Now, of course, it's not easy. Look at the East, look at the West. Like, we talk about parity, and it's never easy in any sport.
We've hashed all these things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, we've talked about CCL. We've explained. We understand they didn't have a lot of training together. We know PT wasn't fully fit.
Right.
We know they had injuries.
Short.
We know. But at the same time, like, this is getting well enough into the season where not being healthy is no longer an excuse. Like,
that just shows on bad recruitment. If one injury to a right back,
it's almost like we had X number of excuse cards, and Saturday was the last one that was used up. Like, that's
it.
That's it.
That's pretty much it. But I agree with you, though, Jay. I think part of what Frank de Boer was doing was keeping the team motivated. And for what I saw today in training and listening to his staff, Orlando Trustful, for instance, they are on these guys, but in a positive way. It's almost obscene.
creating competition.
Yeah, and making sure like the encouragement is positive, and then the players understand that, and they're also saying, "Hey, we're making progress." But it goes back to what you just said. That excuse, they used it. Fine. You can argue that they played well against Dallas,
And that's why it didn't bother me as much when he was saying it, because I was like, I get it, right? I get it. He's got to hold the locker room together. But
I think there's a way to handle it. There's a way to handle it, and it was almost shown perfectly today. I'm not sure if you saw it, but Unai Emery on Arsenal.com came out and defended Shkodran Mustafi. Mustafi being at fault, for the Zaha goal, which basically gave away the game against Crystal Palace this week. And he said, "Look, Shkodran did not have a good game. The week before, he was the best player on the pitch. This is football. He had 7 great defensive plays. He had 2 terrible defensive plays. One of those cost us a goal. It was highlighted on every single television station. We have to treat these people like people. I understand that. There's a way to handle it." But he also came out and said his performance wasn't good enough at key areas. I have to work with him. I have to coach him better. That's on me.
Yeah, and
it's accountability.
Yeah, and
from the top.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, the thing is,
it's not calling people spoiled.
We could be crushing teams 5-1. Frank de Boer is still going to be that same monotone style of delivery, and it's something that we're all getting used to. And I think it just comes out and it's magnified when we're losing, and it's frustrating because you're like, just get to the point, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, press conferences isn't what losing the game. So you know what I mean? But it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Colorado, and when we talk about that, we can dig into some of the things that, if this is out of excuses, is this panic level, that sort of
There's
stuff.
There's other things too. It's just like body language. Stand up during a match.
Well, I don't care about that because I've watched enough soccer to see that
tactically direct your players, if not just once.
Yeah,
just for the fans.
I know
to
that
shut
some
up
people
about it.
like that. They like to see that.
It's not his personality.
Orchestration.
He's like that in training. From what I saw today, he was completely in control. Loud, yelling, and not in a negative way, just like getting everyone's attention, getting everyone together. This is what we're doing. This is the drill.
I think he expects his players to go out there and execute what they plan.
Yeah,
and
so,
like him going and he feels some coaches are like me doing all this.
Right.
He isn't doing anything. That's just making me feel better.
Exactly. Like, he's not an Antonio Conte that's gonna.
It's also
be out
cultural.
There losing his mind. Yeah,
I just don't.
Could be
I
cultural
don't
as well.
personally know many Dutch people that are flamboyant.
Did you watch Louis van Gaal? Louis van Gaal was like feigning heart attacks.
He was an excellent.
You remember Marco van Basten?
Excellent diver. But personally, I'm saying in real life, like people I know who are Dutch, like that's just they're much closer to a Frank than a Tata Martino. Tata's not even that flamboyant in my consideration.
Let's
unless
go
you're
back
Chris
to,
Armas.
Yeah, let's go back to something. Okay, personnel.
Right.
And so, because it's easy, like you said, to kind of pile on the manager. I think if we look at the team, and it's a very good team. It's a very good MLS team.
A very good offensive MLS
A very good offensive MLS team. But there are holes, and I think now those holes are being exposed by the opposing teams. The fullback position at this club is completely unresolved.
We bought 3 left backs.
It's unsettled, and then when you face an injury like a Franco Escobar, a Mikey Ambrose, you're done. And so now we have. Now what you're seeing is Michael Parker's a very good defender, very polished defender, an experienced defender,
a career center back.
But a career center back. Yes, he played in the UEFA Championship
How many
right back
years ago?
But again, it was only 6 years ago. But listen,
it's not like riding a bike.
Regardless,
sorry.
like he what he is a very good center back, a serviceable right back.
Listen, when he gets forward, he was creating chances.
Yes, and he would tell you this. Like I think he would probably say, yeah, like my strength is to play in the middle.
He's the great drop back CB, so that you can have an LGP go forward.
Exactly. What everyone saw last season and what everyone raved about and what everyone said, wow, imagine if he would have been in the U.S. national team game against Trinidad. It was his ability to anticipate plays and clean up, essentially sweep behind a player.
He's one of the smartest.
Yeah.
And what he lacks in actual pace or athletic ability, he's a cerebral assassin.
Yeah.
Just like the Ebabwise steal in the MLS Cup. Yes. He watched film. He knew he was going to cut to his left, and he made the tackle to that side.
So doesn't this fall on, people poo-pooed it when we lost McDonough. He went back to he was hired by Miami, right? And they said, well, he's really a builder guy. He's a builder. He showed Darren Eales and Carlos Bocanegra, they learned from him, and they have staff. They hired that guy from the Falcons to help deal with contracts and blah blah blah. I mean, I understand you can't foresee all the injuries and things like that, but when like you said, you have you're
Breck
selling
Shea.
McCann, and here nobody's talking about this.
We haven't gotten to Breck Shea yet.
McCann is let go to DC United. Was a tremendous utility guy for us, and did really, I thought, overall pretty well. I mean, people were like, at the time, I even said, well, he's too expensive. But then we went and turned around, and it's not like we bought a guy for $150,000 or went double down and went someone like even more. Okay, we want somebody that's TAM level, that's really good, like even higher level McCann money. No, we turned around and got Breck Shea, which is fine. But at the same time, it's like some of these decisions, I'm starting to look back and say, what was going on here?
Where's Jose Hernandez?
Because the feeling was from Twitter, it was not like we wanted out. Like, his wife was not like they're like it's had to go kind of thing.
So two things. One, good thing you brought up Jose Hernandez. First, Breck Shea. Very similar to Michael Parkhurst. He's not a defender. He's not.
We thought he was going to be an off-the-bench left mid or
back.
come in and create chances, even running as a second forward, or
like he did against Columbus.
Yes, and so if you look at the post-game comments from Luchi Gonzalez, one of the first things that he said is that they exposed that left
He's not
side.
a one-on-one defender.
He literally said, we knew that if Breck Shea got caught up the field, we were going to have that left flank open, and and again, this isn't like it's Breck Shea's fault. He was no. This is just how tactics work. The Luchi Gonzalez knew that, and the team knew. I think that's what I noticed from the press box. What's great about FC Dallas quickly is that everything was so trained from the moment
smooth and calculated.
Brad Gusan had the ball. It was like everyone knew where to go, and it was very robotic, but in a very fluid way. And so
they just look drilled.
They just look extremely drilled and well coached. And so in that first goal, it was like it was as if they remembered something from film, and they worked the ball around. They caught Breck Shea upfield. Barrios makes a quick turn on LGP, and then from there it's just quality. And that's what happens. So going back, the evolution of Atlanta United, to your point about, they have great attackers. Yes, the evolution of this club is DP level defenders. And finding, we don't know what Frank de Boer's
and guess who one of those DP level
yet.
Defenders was? Miguel Almiron
or Iko Para.
you see what I'm saying? There's this intangible where everybody was focused, and I'm not saying we should focus because I think we've done enough on. Well, obviously, it's low-hanging fruit to say, well, Miguel Almiron is probably the biggest piece that's really shifted and where the roles fit, and is there too much overlap of talent? Like
Greg Garza.
Yeah.
Greg Garza.
Here's the very, you're like,
but we're shuttling left backs to get rid of them.
Here's a quick, tactical thing. And Greg Garza was very important because when teams want to play and build out of the back, the fullbacks are so important because it's a quick outlet, and immediately you're up the field. And the opposing team has to adjust. They move, they shift, and things open up. When Mexico played Chile, and I think it was Tata's first game, the first thing I was noticing is that they were just it was as if they were drilled. We're playing out of the back, but our fullbacks are going to get that ball and they're going to go. And it was classic Tata, what he did with Franco, what he did with Garza, and it changes the whole feel of the game. The opposing team has to respect it. Right now, Atlanta United just doesn't have that.
Playing out of the back makes me incredibly nervous because our keeper doesn't have the best feet.
Well, what do we do
Miles
against New England? We play against New England.
Miles isn't like that ball playing center back. Today in practice, the thing that I noticed that I'm like, impressive. He's an impressive specimen. He's an excellent defender. He's probably going to be an all-star this season. Well deserved. He's not this classic ball playing center back that's polished, fluid on the ball. That when the ball's at his feet, you're like, look at that guy.
He's a free safety in cleats.
Yeah, and so his first touch though is pretty good. It's today I was impressed by the way he was laying balls off. He was checking like again when it was his time to shoot. The reporters were like, "Oh, there's a defender taking shots." It was going over the goal, but he's going to his upside is tremendous. But I think that's going back to it's easy to pile on Frank de Boer, and I've told Jason Longshore this. I don't think we know the profile of some of the players in key positions for Frank de Boer. What does a fullback look like in his system? What does a center back truly look like?
When you have 6 different starting 11s in 6 MLS matches, and I think it's something like 8 different starting 11s in 10 matches overall. What is Frank de Boer? What is? I said this in my fan camp. What is Atlanta United right now?
Yeah, the identity still is.
I don't expect an identity till June-ish.
But that's the thing. It's like,
but I do expect. I do expect at this point to have discerned some core pieces, or to understand that you're going to get hit on that wing, and Breck Shea is going to be, you know, like if you put yourself in opposing coach's shoes, you know you're going to go after Breck Shea in that position. Then why are we playing a back three or something?
Why are we still so disconnected from the back four to the front three? Why?
And it always goes back to, and it always falls back. Well, Franco Escobar is injured, and Mikey Ambrose is injured, but we had Greg Garza, we had McCann.
They let him go. They made decisions in the front office.
So when this rolls back, this to me it rolls back to going. Was that losing Paul McDonough? Are we going to look back and say that was kind of a hit? Well, you know, would he have helped in some of these decisions, or is this? We don't know. I mean, I don't know, right? I can't say. I don't have a crystal ball.
I think Paul McDonough was obviously part of, building this,
I understand,
and he's going to be very important to Miami as well.
We never saw 1-for-1 replacement though.
Anywhere.
No.
We got a ton of Gam and Tam for Garza that I don't know what we did with it, unless it went to Breck Shea. What did we do with that $450,000?
That's the frustrating thing too about MLS. We don't have any transparency until the end of the year. They announce the supposed salaries.
Good Lord, please get rid of this system and let us spend, because that opens up a whole other can of worms. Because you're never gonna beat Liga MX.
Yeah, it changes everything. If a team that wants to spend can spend, then okay, you change the face of this league.
Yeah, and
I just get rid of legacy owners.
And honestly, I just don't think that Franco Escobar and Bello coming back is going to fix everything. I'm not expecting I just don't. Bello. Well, there's a reason why he was not playing after that first. But he was but he was also put in a position to just a terrible position away from home in a giant stadium.
Yeah, I think
why was he put in that position in the first place?
On a ping pong table.
Because then we're all wondering. Did it kill his confidence?
Yeah. Well, listen, I agree with you. I don't think just Bello and Franco coming back magically fixes everything, and I think for a number of reasons. One is just fitness. Like, you can't expect a player that hasn't been playing 90 minutes in these competitive matches, which
look at PT. It may take 7 years for him to get back in the pitch fit.
to just come in and fix everything. Yeah, and so Franco today was at training. He looked like he's going to be a full go probably for this Saturday. PT Martinez.
Was he not fit? Was he not fit last week? Was Pablo Escobar not fit last weekend?
Franco, because Pablo
Escobar.
Woo! Was Franco Escobar? There we go. Was Franco Escobar not fit last week? Because playing Parkhurst, and that's where the Pablo came from, playing Parkhurst at right back is just asinine to me if you have a fit Franco Escobar.
I don't think he was fit. From when I was in the locker room after the game, Franco, I'm pretty sure he dressed. When I saw him in the locker room, he had his left quad taped. So I don't think they risked him. Today in practice, he looked like a full go.
Listen, I'd rather you bring him back slowly because he is that important of a piece. That's fine. I trust their process. Now, I'll question some decision-making around Eric Remedi and things like that when it comes to concussion protocol. Yeah. But overall, I trust
Whose doctor approved that? Whose doctor approved that? That's criminal.
It raises some questions. But I overall, there's nothing to tell me that they're not doing their job, and I know the medical staff is somewhat different, right? Because Frank brought some of his own guys and stuff like that, because Tata took his guys with him to Mexico. But when we talk about roles, and we've been speaking defensively, we have Barco finally shining, but then we have this conundrum where, if PT is started to be brought back, Tito's just starting to get in a rhythm again. Is he sacrificed for PT? Is PT because PT doesn't seem like a power bench guy for me.
No.
He's not a super. You don't spend $15 million on a super.
And that's the problem. Tito's too good at being it's almost to his detriment. He's such a good power sub that it's like when I tell people at work, I'm too good at this one thing, they keep putting me on the same projects I don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you the guy that I felt today in training, I was just like, man, he's running like a train, and that was Tito Villalba.
He
would have, I think he wanted to run through a wall. He would have ran through anyone that was in front of him, and he's playing, he knows he's playing for a spot.
But he's always been tries hard guy.
I agree.
But this is an edge. You even said it before. There's an edge to him, coming off. He's like he gets pissed
and
off.
Because he's fit. What happened at the end of the season? Like I caught him in the locker room after MLS Cup.
He was
literally
happy to be back.
He was
after,
wearing
an injury,
wearing the goggles.
He was wearing the champagne goggles, and he told me, it was the toughest year he's ever had. He'd never had injuries like that. And what Tata did, okay, and this is where the mind games from a skilled manager like Tata. He told me Tata was like my psychologist, and what he would tell me is like, I just need 15 from you, the best and the hardest 15 to 20 that you can give me. Straight up, you're not playing 90. Towards the end of the season, but he knew that those 15 and 20 could change a game,
because the defenders at that point are so gassed that you bring on a human rocket full of jet fuel, and for 25 minutes he can run at them.
And so he did that, but now it's like he accepted that role. He's not accepting that role right now. He's not accepting it.
Just like anybody in a job, right? Like you hit your merit review, you killed it, you hit all your check marks, and now you're like, I want the pay raise, I want the prestige, like I want the bigger projects. You know what I mean? Right. Like, give it to me, right?
We need you to show us another 6 more months of commitment.
Yeah, and, Tito wants to give that PowerPoint, man.
And listen, and PT
the
Martinez,
Dwight Schrute interview
today. PT, looked good. He trained hard. Nothing that like I was like, well, this guy is just killing it. No,
well, God damn it, I would hope he would look good. He's the player of the year from South America.
I mean, but a fresh PT means that decision has to be made, right?
Yeah,
so someone has to go because Barco is our 10, right? At this point, or is that still Kluge as well?
No, I don't think this team has a 10. And I don't. And I've asked Frank.
We just have a bunch of wingers.
I asked Frank
Nagbe's the closest thing you've had to a 10 this season.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think I asked Frank after, I think it was after Philadelphia post game, and what I wanted to get out of him, and again, I think he kind of, not like he skirted the question, but it was, what I want to know is like, is a 10 even part of his system? Like, does he identify players that, hey, I need a 10? I don't think so. I don't think a 10 is a Dutch, like a classic Dutch position. They have so many, like the 8.
Overmars.
Yeah, like the 8, like what De Jong is currently. He's like this all-everything 8 that can kind of do everything.
Was.
Wesley Sneijder, like Van der Vaart were like closer to 10s, but
we better have a healthy 6 all the time.
Yeah, and there are plenty of 6s on Atlanta United. And what Barco did, Barco can play as a 10, but he's not a 10. He'll tell you probably that I'm not a number 10.
Give me a 2 and a 3 at this point, and I'm perfect.
Well, he does best when he's unleashed, right?
Yeah, and so the other day I tweeted, and I didn't get like flack from him, but we were talking about Carlos Vela. I'm like, you watch him play, you watch him dominate, you watch him the way he
People
scores.
People were arguing about Vela's position for 5 years.
The way he just moves and influences the game, and I'm like, if I'm an Atlanta United,
he's a rover.
Yeah, if I'm an Atlanta United supporter and I'm watching LAFC and I'm watching a player, like Carlos Vela, I'm thinking, where's PT? Like, that's what I want to see from PT, not scoring 10 goals and 9 goals in a row.
But see, that's what frustrates me about
defenders,
what's going on.
Yeah.
What's going on with Joseph right now is because very similarly, if you let Joseph float, he seems to be getting himself more involved. Whereas at the beginning of the season, playing the system that we had, Joseph spent 85 minutes standing between 2 center backs.
Right, and sometimes 3. Sometimes they'll create the triangle around Joseph.
Is that part of the PD vacuum though? Is Joseph's being asked, or is that part of just the system period? So even if PT comes in, Joseph's going to be deeper, because right now we don't even have I feel like a striker. We saw, Matt Doyle, there are a lot of things I disagree with him on, but he was point on in his Match Week show, the MLS Match Week, where they call it, or Match Day Center. He pointed out, there was a play where, a ball was put right across, and Gressel's coming in to play it.
And Tito had checked out.
And
there's no one else
if Joseph's got a guy on him, there's all this space. The whole box was wide open, and nobody was there.
Was that also the play where number 24 for them feigned the head injury?
So is that part of,
so.
Is that, the thing is, like, it's fine that if your system, once it's in place, you don't need a number 10. But it's like we're in such a fluid state, it feels like, at this point. Like, we're trying to figure stuff out. It's like that's hurting us by not having that structure.
You always need a creative midfielder.
By not having that consistency
and
there.
So, again, not to plug my last piece, but it's that's part of it. It's like this team has lacked like creativity and just dynamic play in the middle. Like someone that can unleash Joseph Martinez, because right now the system that they're playing, yes, it's creating chances, and we can talk about XG until we're blue in the face, but it's not. All those chances are, crosses into the box and someone sliding and missing, or 3 defenders just waiting for the cross.
Set pieces off the bar.
Set pieces. And now a player the reason why a player like Barca has become so invaluable is because he's creating his own chances. And that's, Joseph Martinez needs someone that can play him through, create, like, get out on a break, transition, make a run. Get him away from the two central defenders that are just man marking him essentially,
and almost at the midfield stripe. We are getting so high pressed because of this slow sideways out of the back play. Every time I see it, every time we get a goal kick, and Brad Guzan goes side to side to decide which fullback he's gonna kick it to. They have at least 5 people within 2 yards of the 18.
Well, you know what's interesting about the New England game is we looked so comfortable because it reminded me of that comfortable chaos last season that we would create. New England created it for us.
They did.
And it allowed us to play direct balls like we did in the playoffs and play balls over the top and mess with them. So it was almost like, to me, that game wasn't necessarily improvement by...
That's beating a bad team.
That's reflex. That's like survival.
And so it's not.
We're not going to get that kind of game.
More teams are
especially at the bends.
More teams are going to sit back. Dallas,
give us the possession. What
I loved from Dallas is that they must be so confident right now. Because
they're not even a counterattacking team. They came in here and played like that's what they do.
They literally said, "Here's our game plan." They're probably on the bus.
Possession team.
They're probably on the bus saying, "We're going to press hard for 15-20 and get an early goal." And then it happened
in the fourth.
I think it was like the 6th minute or something.
They basically created the script that most teams, if they have the pieces to do it, are going to try to do that. Especially if they have speed on the wings.
Right.
Forget about it.
And then they sat back in a very, disciplined way, and they still were dangerous.
It wasn't even that deep.
No, and so that is the challenge for Atlanta United. That MLS teams don't typically. They didn't last year either. Love to come out and just play you face straight up because they're going to get beat on the counter. Now I think they're starting to realize, can Atlanta really hurt us on the counter? Maybe not. Maybe they don't have that player, obviously, like Miguel.
Do you think...
Can we sit back more and give them possession and hope that they break us down? We see on film that they cross 10 to 11 times a game. The
only player like Miguel is going to be a Tito who will give you that 60-yard beat 3 people lung busting run, but Miguel would finish and Tito hasn't, and that's a big difference.
Miguel went through a period where he wasn't finished either.
But against Columbus, he won you that game.
But Miggy also drew 2 or 3 3 guys, and it didn't matter because he blew by them.
Miggy got fouls. Barco does not get a single call, and he even said something to the. I mean, that's another thing. We are not getting anything, and I think that there is a reputation. Tied into Atlanta United at this point that we have South American players that dive, and the refs don't give us a damn thing.
I think Barco's getting more calls.
That could be true. I mean, Barco
lately, but he still doesn't get all of them.
That's what he said post game. I think I tweeted that where
he talked to the ref, didn't he?
Well, he talked to Pulso ATL, which is a local Spanish speaking radio station here. I think they have the TV as well. And he was asked, "We saw you speaking to the ref after the game with LGP. What did you say?" And he was very adamant. He's like, we're not getting calls, and he said it feels like the refs want to affect us in games.
Villarreal, though, has always been,
and then he said,
someone that
we were unsettled. Right? Personally, I felt the ref. He wasn't terrible, but he didn't control.
He never controlled.
Villarreal doesn't control emotions.
And it's like, speaking of South Americans, both teams were littered with South Americans.
Yeah,
where that type of the dark arts, the gamesmanship. That's what I said. You have the CONMEBOL just going at each other, like Ecuadorians against Argentinians, Barrios, Grueso, LGP. They were just all in, and a referee needs to recognize that Villarreal just simply didn't really.
So the summer transfer window,
the
summer transfer window is I feel like light years away compared to what we in terms of changes we need. We have Franco Escobar coming back. One of the things that, even if you put a Bello in there, Frank de Boer has said, listen, I tried to work on defense first. There were reasons it didn't work. Did you ever gain insights or get a hint to, why that was suddenly said, okay, I'm going to focus on attack? Was it just, I understand he uses all the right buzzwords, I want them to feel more freedom to play.
Play to your strengths.
And play like they used to and all these sorts of things, right? I don't know if part of that's just feeding into the mind games again. But when we are having such defensive troubles, unless you're putting away, and maybe he was hoping that this XG, the shots created by focusing on this, the 22 shots, he's expecting these to go in. So therefore, if we lose a goal, it doesn't matter because we're putting in 2 or 3. But if that's not working, I mean, at some point, you have to start looking at that defense. Say, do we go back to a back 3? What? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he knows.
The insight came from the conversation I had with Michael Parkhurst, where he told me, this was right before their think it was before they were about to start Champions League. And so what he told me is that he had conversations with Frank de Boer in the offseason. They were very constructive conversations. He felt as captain it was great that the new manager reached out to him and wanted to know his opinion. And some of the things that Michael Parkhurst told me is that, yeah, defensively they felt like there were some areas that they could improve, like namely players like Michael Parkhurst under Tata being caught in 1v1 situations in dangerous parts of the field.
Now it's LGP.
Being caught on the counter, being caught in transition, routinely, being so wide open, so spread out, and so
it's like we're back to that. Though.
Well, I mean, committing 9 to attack doesn't ever help.
It's like he tried to work on those things, and it had such a counter, such a counter effect that he had to stop.
Frank de
of course he wants to work.
Is a defender. He comes from that. Yes, he's one of the best ball playing defenders.
I mean, I'm complimenting his flexibility. We wanted to see him adjust, but
right. But my theory is that I think in doing that and wanting to, I'm sure he was like, "Hey, we know we can attack."
It could have paid off. We could have won and put all those away. And he's like, "Look at me."
Totally. Imagine if we had
focused on the attack and
imagine if our defense were as stout as and fearful as this attack that we have. And so
right.
I think that was what happened. Though is that everyone just were locked up because they're thinking we can't get countered, we can't get caught 1v1.
They're thinking too much.
We need to pinch in, like fullbacks pinch. It was to that level of detail, and now everyone's thinking on the field. They're afraid to attack. They're afraid to get forward. They're afraid to press. And I think he admitted in an interview with 92.9 The Game that maybe that wasn't the right tactic.
It's paralysis by analysis, man.
Yeah. Exactly. And so I think he's loosened that up. To your point against New England, I know it was against a bad New England team, but there were points where the team had no shape whatsoever, and that was fine.
Right,
that was fine because they're transitioning. A little bit of chaos unlocks creativity.
It became 1v1. They want to put their guys in midfield up against our guys. We're going to win that battle.
But I said that after that match, winning that game was papering over the cracks because there were still a ton of cracks.
There were.
That we were not shaped. They were just bad.
I think most people realize that there were caveats to it. I think we were just happy to see improvement.
I'll say the same thing if we beat Colorado.
But now we're playing it's last place versus last place, right?
Right.
So you said that in your article.
I did.
I read that.
All of a sudden, it's the two last place
now
teams
I'm plugging
in
your
MLS.
article. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like last against Dallas, it's like, hey, Jesse Gonzalez has one of the best games of his career. He's a national team goalkeeper. That's great.
And apparently,
DeBoer may have wanted to save that
7 times.
DeBoer may have wanted to save that wild card excuse card for if we lose against a last place.
Just speaking on Jesse Gonzalez,
it is Tim Howard. I mean, again, it's not Tim Howard 2014, but it's still Tim Howard. He could have.
But what else is it?
That's about it.
What else is it? That's the one thing. Like I can say with Dallas, like they've got players.
They have players.
But they also
Colorado has Tim Howard.
Yeah, that's about it.
But if they bunker, which they are going to do,
they will. But they've still
they don't have the tools to come out and press us for 15 minutes. I don't think
in
the beginning, but unless they want to really open themselves up. But it's going to be. Could this be a game where PT could? Is this a great opportunity for him?
I would start
to unlock
Martinez.
These guys, right?
I would start
have him chase him around, open up space for Joseph.
I understand that. I understand the notion of, hey, we want PT to be fit in, end of July, going into August. I get it, but right now,
have him tire out the defense.
You need to win games. You need to win.
If you're 21 points off the lead in June, what's it going to matter?
They're fortunate that the East has been pretty
a jumbled
poor.
mess.
Right. I think
with NYC beating DC,
MLS did a live video yesterday, and they said they did a live video yesterday. It said, "Is every team in the East terrible?" And I said, I hope so, for our sake. Yeah. Right now, I hope so for at least the time being.
A few months ago, PT was very open. He's like, "I'm not fit." I think if you asked him now, and from what I see in training, I see a guy that wants it. I think he wants to play. We don't know if it's a
he's with his fellow Argentines watching him, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
we don't know if it's
going at it hard.
It could be, hey, coaches, front office is like, we need PT to be healthy. He's probably now I need to play. I want to play.
Yeah,
so it's going to get to a point where,
balance, yeah.
Okay,
he needs to play.
So in that whole PT thing, there was the bit of news that came out today that he's, that Gallardo at River Plate is still very adamant. Or I'm not sure if it was Gallardo from River Plate, but it was basically River Plate's interested in bringing him back.
It was Marcelo, yeah.
Marcelo Gallardo wanting PT back. knowing that it would be expensive, but doing anything
which is
possible.
also hilarious because they're now reportedly $50 million in debt.
Yeah.
Like most teams in Argentina.
I understand.
But Juan Fer Quintero going down with a torn ACL and MCL. I mean, like there's an obvious need for a playmaker. His wife and his daughter are still there. You know, I mean, is there smoke to that fire, or is this just clickbait?
Is a mix of some half-truths, old news about his being
unsettled,
homesick, you know, and kind of someone using this to throw out some more meat, or what, you know? Do we know?
I don't think we know, but I think, you know, even PT later when he was with an Argentine national team, he was pretty open. He basically said it's been very difficult for him to adjust, and not adjust to MLS, but to leave the world that is River Plate. You know, the care, the camaraderie, the teammates, the club.
It's your boyhood club.
It's
the country you grew up in,
and
knowing where your grocery store is, knowing where you can get your stuff. I mean, it's like
it's everything to him. He started at River the way he's starting now. He was essentially jeered. He didn't have a great start, and then he became a legend. So I think that's part of it. And he has a very close relationship with Marcelo Gallardo. He attributes his success to Marcelo.
But also,
Gallardo.
it tells me that he has a lot of. He's a quiet guy, but he has a lot of. No. It also shows, like, to me, you know, this could also be agent talk. I don't know, but for a guy that has already experienced what it's like to be, you know, have a difficult time transitioning, you know, getting into a team, having the fans, you know, get on your back, and then overcoming that builds a level of strength, some fortitude, right? I mean, this is a guy also that has ambitions for Europe. To me, to go back home with your tail tucked between your legs is,
again,
you know, a step
but you
back.
say agent speak. What's the benefit to this?
But you're still going back to River Plate. You're still going back to River Plate, which, you know, is every year there are probably a handful of European scouts at every one of their games, just watching this team because they're young players, they're attack minded. They only know how to play one way, which is attack.
It's a world brand. You're in Club World Cup.
It's a global brand. They have the hottest coach in South America that can choose whatever he wants to do after he leaves River Plate. So it could be smoke. It could be just to a coach that needs a playmaker that misses his family.
Yeah.
I don't think Atlanta United is going to be like, yeah, let's let him go. You know, I think they've committed to him, similar to what they did with Barco when everyone thought Barco should be loaned out.
Yeah, talk about family issues.
Look at Barco now. Talk about issues.
Yeah.
But is it good to keep a malcontent?
Yeah, I mean, listen.
And I'm not advocating. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Can you ever point to me a situation where a player is unhappy and it's worked out well? Paul Pogba at Juventus. Paul Pogba now at Manchester
Any
United.
situation with Mario Balotelli.
But sometimes if you buy time, things do. Time does change things sometimes, and so sometimes.
What's going to change about his wife and daughter being in Buenos Aires?
No.
I think it's got to be internal to him. I think
I'll
that
tell you
if
what
he
changes.
puts away some goals.
I'll tell you what changes exactly. That's his
mentality.
performances.
Yeah.
Here's what I saw from PT and some other players in the locker room after the game. You know when you're like upset and you get dressed really fast, like you put your socks on, like you're pissed at your socks. That's what PT was
ripping
doing.
shoelaces.
That's what PT was doing. He was tying his shoes.
Well, that
really
means
fast.
he's vested in me.
Yeah, like Miles Robinson was another guy that I just saw like getting dressed like he like wanted to kill his jeans.
At least he cares,
Okay?
right? That's a sign.
And so like these players, they're not like, yeah, we're making progress, and no, they were upset. The mood in the locker room was not one of like we're making progress.
Which is why it's so frustrating to hear that that's our best performance. And if we play like that 30 times, we're going to win
and
28 of them. Well, that was our loss.
Yeah.
I like Felipe saying that wild card. You used your wild card. That's it.
You used it. You're done. You can't use it again.
You took your ace.
And Pizza Martinez is he looks like, you know, he's a quiet guy, but he's extremely like emotional in a way of like, you know, today at practice,
Que loco que está.
Que loco que está. Like he missed a shot and he was like on his knees, like slamming the ground. Like that's just like, and then immediately he was right back up. But he's the guy that just is like, he's an intense dude. I really think he is, and he needs positive performances to get him out of that, like the rumor mill.
I just hope he's ready to play left back. That's all I guess.
Now starting at left back.
So
you wanted a DP defender. I mean, there you go.
There you go.
let's get into injury. We talked about Bello. Are there any other injury? You were at the training ground. What's the injury status?
Tell me about
players?
Hernandez. I brought that up. Can you?
What's going
I saw Jose Hernandez today walking casually to the twos.
So his legs are working. That's good.
Yeah, and I go back to a conversation that I had with Tata Martino at a scrum at practice last summer. I did a piece on Jose Hernandez, one of my first pieces for The Athletic, about where where he came from, his club life in Venezuela, his upbringing in Venezuela, the fact that he was a part of a U20 World Cup squad that reached the final.
Yep.
He's part of the golden generation.
Has caps with Joseph Van Sal.
Yeah, Jose Hernandez is part of Venezuela's golden generation, and he can't get a sniff of the first team in Atlanta United. And I remember when I asked Tata for that story, hey, tell me, what do you see from Jose Hernandez? I told someone the other day this story. Tata looked at me square in the eyes, and it felt like he was like my dad about to get mad at me. And scold me. He looks at me and he's like, in Spanish he says, más intensidad, more intensity. And everything that Jose Hernandez does, he knows. I've told him. We've told him. More intensity. He has all the ball skills. He's technical. He looks great on the ball. More intensity. To play in this league, you need to play with intensity. Maybe he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Maybe he hasn't shown it. And in the training ground, that's where you show those things. That's where you Scott Donnelly told me, for the twos, he's a polished left back that gives you that left foot that is growing. This was last season.
That's just like Romario Williams in USL is amazing.
Yeah, like he was growing into his own. Like he had to adjust. Jose had to adjust from coming from Venezuela, not knowing English. Thanks to Joseph, he kind of feels like he was part of this team. And like you see him, if you follow the guys on Instagram,
La Banda, he's
always there. He's always there. But I don't think he's an option. Yeah. I just don't think he's an option for Frank de Boer.
Well, and obviously with Mikey being out with the injury,
we're not seeing him with the twos. We're seeing now young guys coming from the academy plan in left back position. Right. So I mean, it's.
Will we see a Gordon
The competition
Wild?
is fierce in twos right now. By the way, you have academy guys chipping like at the boots of these guys.
Today, the guys that were there with the first team that have played with the twos, Gordon Wild, who I like. I'd
love to see him.
Again, good. We have a wealth of some common pieces, places.
I think from what I saw today in that like really intense like 3v2 scrimmage, Gordon Wild physically has to get tougher. Has to get a little bit tougher, but on the ball looks really good. Anderson Asedu was there as well. Again, looks good on the ball. Can get outmanned, outplayed physically, and just like the Argentines they were slide tackling everyone. It was hardcore. He held his own, but again, he was part of that group.
He was great at, for me, coming in and tackling the ball off of people. But when he does get bodied he can get bodied off the ball, and also his passing needs to improve a little bit when I've seen matches. But he has been improving, I think.
Yeah, Kunga was there as well, and.
Now there's a guy we don't talk much about lately.
Yeah,
or Brandon Vasquez. I mean,
Vasquez.
I don't think
we'll see him much anymore.
Brandon wasn't on either pitch today.
I don't think we're going to see him again.
And what I saw from Kunga is another left foot in tight spaces in a very intense type of drill. A guy that could get out of tough situations on the dribble. His head was always up. And he looked okay. Again, it's one thing to see that at practice. It's another thing to be in an MLS match with the pressure, with the cameras on, with the lights on, with the fans on. But those were the guys that are fringe, that are from the twos that were there. Florentine Pogba was with the twos. Dion Pereira, who came on, he was with the twos. Andrew Carlton was with the twos.
Just about to say that there was a glaring omission in everything, and it was Frosted Orange himself. I thought
they have a big matchup, though.
I understand that they're playing the Rowdies, but my whole thing with that was I felt like when Dion Pereira came on in this last match, what does that say to Andrew Carlton?
Yeah.
Was anybody prepared for that?
No, he wasn't prepared. Today I asked Dion, I'm like,
what? And what sub is that? You're chasing a game. You're down at home, and you're giving a kid his MLS debut. We weren't up 2-0. We were down 2-0.
Well, here's two things. I think, and this is what I tweeted. At the time, it's at this point, it's not in a negative way, but it is a desperate attempt to create anything on the attacking side.
Who creates all the time in these situations?
Andrew Carlton.
And off the bench, I think off the bench in these moments that he often will create a couple of those chances.
Okay, so. Here's while I'll argue for a player like Dion, which I don't know much about, but he's a left-footed player that they put him on the right side for Julian Gressel, who just had nothing left in him, right? Like he was gassed, he was done. So today I asked Dion, what were you told to do when you came on for Julian Gressel? And he said, Frank de Boer told me to attack, to go one-on-one, to get in the attacking side, to take chances, create chances. Pretty basic, right? Like nothing really tactical. I asked him, did you know throughout the week that you could potentially play? He said no, but I had a good week of practice and I was with the first team. And he has come on in the 82nd minute in a Premier League match as a teenager. He's the type of left-footed player that wants to play on the right and cut in. He talked about that today.
Arjen Robben style.
Yeah, and he's, I thought he showed something. So today I asked him, looking back, hindsight, what would you have liked to have done differently in the minutes that you got? And he knew exactly. Everyone's going to remember this play. Remember that play he took one-on-one and he went to the end line and he ran out of
space. Yeah.
He said, I wish I should have cut back inside. I should have cut that guy inside, because that's what he does. He's a lefty, Arjen Robben style. I think that's the type of player that he is.
Take that Barco curler and stream it in.
And he has kind of a wicked left peg. So what is Frank de Boer doing? Well, I think he is giving other guys a chance. I think maybe he looked down the bench and there's no one else. I need a guy on that side that can break down the right fullback for Dallas, and it was Dion.
So it may not have been Andrew's not good enough today. It's more tactically this fits the puzzle
but
better.
The thing that's terrifying about that is he didn't give him any fucking tactics. He just said go. That's terrifying to me, because that's literally a coach out of ideas.
Well,
saying you go. Do you understand how as the guy who rants on fan cams?
No, I know.
That totally makes my point.
But also sometimes a young guy like that, you could put.
It's not the guy, it's the coach. I'm not slanting Dion. I'm saying straight up.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, we've seen it enough where a young guy, he gets overcoached to come in, and that's all he's thinking about when he comes on, versus just going out there relaxing.
And at that point,
that means more man management than tactics.
At that point, Atlanta
I don't know
United,
what he could have told him to do.
At that point of the game, Atlanta United had set up shop in Dallas's half. They weren't going to get countered again. I don't think
until they did.
I don't think it was hey, Dion, please play in the half spaces and make sure you're pressing. I think he knows today from when I asked him what is the difference. Listen, Dion Pereira has played for Watford, a team that is perennially fighting to stay up or to
at least yeah.
So I asked him hey, you've been in this situation where you're playing for a club where maybe the
things
vibe
aren't going well.
The vibe isn't exactly how it is. Now you're here playing for an MLS defending champion, but things aren't going well. What do you bring? What type of experience can you bring to this club? And he was very honest. He's it's you need to be focused in training, but at the same time, he understands that defenses in MLS and defenses in England, it's not like in England everyone is so great. In fact, he said in England everyone sits back. They're
just all huge.
They're just big guys.
You're looking at Virgil van Dijk and
but he
David
also
Luiz every
recognized
weekend and week out.
People don't press. He was the press is new in England. It's new in the Premier League, and here he's everyone's pressing. So I think he's gotten a taste of that in practice, and I'm assuming at that point of a game, the manager doesn't have to say, remember your responsibilities in the press. Just try to play.
So I think that covers a lot of Atlanta United.
My head is spinning today.
That was a lot of Atlanta United.
I had a whole bunch of other league news I was going to get to. I don't even think we need to at this point. That was some tremendous stuff that we got into right there. Although I will just say this: I will never unsee Rusnik's finger from that from the game.
And I have a question.
FC Cincinnati.
God, that was disgusting. But I have a question. We talked about it earlier. We mentioned it earlier. Carlos Vela's on a tear. Is Joseph's goal mark in jeopardy?
If he kept up the pace.
I'm not saying anybody's going to keep the pace, but
he would destroy it.
The guy's a hat trick waiting to happen.
Yeah,
he's playing at a high level. I wonder what that conversation. What was talked about when Tata and Carlos Vela had coffee in L.A. And this was before
because he didn't get played
the international break. He didn't give Carlos the call.
Yeah.
Carlos later
for those listening may not know, it's just we're talking about from Mexico,
right? For the Mexican national team, and what Carlos Vela later, I think he told Sebastian Salazar is that it was very political, though. It was like, oh, sometimes you need to understand, like, it's time to give the young guys a chance, and, like, maybe that's the cycle I'm in. But you look at his form.
Is he talking about Lozano? Or, I mean, who's he referencing in there? Like, who do you sit for Carlos Vela?
Look at his form. Like,
Is this Tata playing his games, going, to get to him, I need to ruffle him up a little bit?
I think it's Tata playing his game, knowing he can depend on Carlos Vela when he wants. He can wait till he's at that moment, the type of form he's in now, and then call him for Gold Cup if he wants. But
pissed off Vela is much better Vela. As an Arsenal fan who watched him wreck shop at Sociedad and then come back to us and not want to be there, pissed off Vela is dangerous Vela.
He's a special player, and I think he's the type of player that this league needs more of. I mean, I'm a righty, and I'll go to my grave saying that lefties they're different types of players. They're different types of players. They just look better on the ball.
They use the other side of the brain.
They can do things that other players can't. And a player like Vela, it's like go to Wikipedia. Carlos Vela says he's a striker, but he's not this traditional.
He's a left
striker.
winger.
Yeah, he can play on the wing.
It's like Aubameyang. He can do whatever, and he can beat anybody.
He can drop inside, play in the middle, and just like beat a couple guys and thread, slice and dice. So.
That's like Joseph's not a striker.
No, I don't. Joseph isn't a traditional 9 either. That's why he needs someone that can facilitate, someone that can open things up, someone that can run at someone where the defenders maybe for a split second forget about Joseph, and then he can finish.
Listen, I mean, Vela reminds, I think, a lot of us of what we enjoyed about Atlanta United last season and LAFC in general. And I tweeted out.
Are they the favorites?
Yeah, Supporter Shield for sure, at least.
Yeah.
I think playoffs, who knows? But because we know that they have defensive weaknesses, and I don't know if they're a playoff team
and
yet.
It's a one
LAFC.
Win.
I don't know if they're still. I think it's too early to say for that.
We're 20% into the season.
If they keep at this, they're gonna blow away in terms of Supporter Shield.
Yeah, and I think what it said. What does it say about MLS? Where I think we understand and where this league is currently. Like, yes, the sport is growing. The quality in the league isn't great right now.
Is the East as bad as it looks right now, or like is it flipped the script that much? Because last year it was
some of it.
Let's look at the West burn.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but some of it is like
the 5 seed made it to MLS Cup final.
Yeah, right. and we don't know. Like, playoffs happen, and now the single elimination, like anything can happen. But LAFC,
as Seattle fans would say, wait till August.
What does it say?
What's happening?
What does it say about MLS? Let's say LAFC wins MLS Cup this year.
Right.
What does it say about MLS where the team
parity, bro?
Two-year-old teams win the league.
Owners that give a shit actually win.
Exactly. And the teams that you mentioned before, Nashville, Austin, Miami, they're like, see, this is what we have to do.
And that's why they're willing to play $200 million, because these owners were like, we will, but you better, once you put your $200 million down, you better continue to put money down.
That's also why you're hearing names like Julian Lopetegui and Asier Garamendi, like these names from La Liga coming over.
You saw what Jorge Mas said. Like, I tweeted the thread. It's like he was very adamant. He's like, I'm down to 2 coaches. If everyone will know who they are.
Yeah. If you win,
Mourinho and Lopetegui.
If you win, they will come.
2 guys that have. This is his quote. That have been ultra successful at the international level, and he said, and they have.
Jurgen Klinsmann.
Please no.
Roberto Mancini.
Please no.
So
please no.
As you know, I'm pretty self-deprecating. It's how I deal with failure.
So you're a Bruce Arena guy? Is that what you're saying?
and so
I'm a Bob Bradley guy. Bob Bradley should have stayed.
I made a tweet, and because
I really am not,
because
at Swansea, he should have stayed at Swansea.
Because Matt Doyle's a scoundrel. Of course, anything I tweet that's like taking a dig at our own fandom, and kind of deflating our ego a little bit, right? I took a video. So after the FC Dallas game, they tweeted a video trolling Breck Shea, which is one of their own. So trolling Breck Shea, showing Frank de Boer's face, Breck Shea's face, and then showing them, hugging, winning goal celebrations. And then it shows at the very end, zoom in of all the fans leaving, right? In the 89th minute or whatever.
DTID.
So I took that part of it, and then I tweeted, I said, Atlanta United fans leaving early to watch highlights of Vela. But it's kind of true, because who I'd rather
420 Fest, bro.
I'm sorry, I would rather watch LAFC any day of the week right now than watch my own team, and that's what's frustrating. And I think that's why fans are walking out, because
we were promised we'll lose 4-3, or we'll win matches 4-3.
While 1% of MLS, while 1% of the hardcore MLS use this as for great reason to troll us as plastic fans and whatever they want to do. In reality, everybody knows it's a percentages game, and if you've ever watched a Manchester United game or a Barcelona game, you've seen the same thing happen.
Right.
Real Madrid, you're dealing with when you have 45,000 to 70,000 people.
They take out the handkerchiefs.
That's
when you know.
Right.
The
I
coach is in
watched
trouble.
Arsenal players get told you're not fit to wear the shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
But the
MLS
fans
isn't there yet.
The funny thing is that will never go. I remember when we were doing so well last season. People forget. I remember when we were shutting teams out so early that the fans were leaving at the 85th minute to go beat traffic because they're like, "Great, we already have 3 goals. I'm out of here."
7-0 against New England was empty
we knew we would hold
5-0 against LAFC.
They knew we would hold on to the
that.
lead because that's how powerful and consistent we were.
Yeah.
And we weren't super consistent. We still had our games lost against FC Dallas and Toronto and all these things and Houston, whatever. But at the same time, there was a faith and a trust built in the fandom. So don't tell. I mean, I've seen it happen when we've won. It's part of being a large fan base where you have thousands of fans every day. There's still thousands of fans in that stadium every match that have never been to a match before outside of LA. Sure. So I'm not concerned about that. It's a fun talking point and say, look at how empty it is, and this is an issue. If you look at photos of the supporter section in stoppage time, there were hardly any seats empty, and that actually surprised me because the first 2 seasons, it was largely 50% casual fans because it was the cheapest tickets and people didn't know what the supporter section was.
Right.
And for the first 2 seasons, you're dealing with people that are like, "What's going on here? Why is there beer? My flags are in my way," and all that sort of stuff. Right now, hey, I was surprised. You showed the picture of the FC Dallas match. 95% of the fans were still there in the supporters, and that's what matters, guys. It doesn't matter what the rest of the bowl is doing.
Right.
If your supporter section's clearing out, then we have problems.
Well, and I'm in 135 right next to the supporters section,
Yeah.
so we were basically still full as well. There were people that left, but Sweetwater 420 Fest was right next door. It was terrible weather.
4 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, Easter, whatever.
Easter weekend.
Excuses, or
I'm not trying
as Mike
to make
Conti
excuses.
says, not excuses.
People
reasons.
fucking left a bad performance. People left a bad performance, and it wasn't the first. This wasn't. This time last year we were 4-1-1. We had just housed LAFC. We had literally we were sitting on 13 points after 18 instead of 5. That you cannot fault the fans for showing. I'm not going to say contempt, but anger at what they perceive to be shitty performances.
Let's talk about this because, I mean, we talked about this when the booing happened, right? I said, I don't care if you boo. It's just not my thing because
you said if we boo, we can't be friends, Jay. Come on.
It was a great tweet. It got a lot of engagement.
Amazing.
I got a lot of engagement on that tweet. Very tongue in cheek, though, right? Like,
of course.
And because I don't care. Do what you want to do. But where we really have to be concerned is if it gets to the point where supporter sections start meeting in back rooms and saying,
let's come up with a chant or whatever.
We're going to chant. We're going to agree to say Frank DeBoer out or stuff like that. Then I'll be really concerned. But
concerned with what?
Concerned that the team has we have such faith in Darren Eales and the thing is, just because if it got to a point, let's say theoretically it got to the point at game 15 where the supporter section decided, this is all theoretical, by the way, no truth behind this, no facts, there's no reason for me to believe this is what happened. But let's say it gets to the point where you have banners. We've seen it as Arsenal fans, Wenger out, whatever. We've seen it in other sports. If it gets to that point, my concern at that point is number one is not is Frank DeBoer a bad coach? That's actually not the first thing I think about. The first thing I think about is, do Darren Eales and Carlos Buchanan actually know what they're doing? If we get to that state where it's that bad, then I'm starting to go, where's the bigger issue?
There's more to it.
Where was the decision making? Where did it start to go? Because that's where you go in the spiral of where did it go wrong?
Recruitment.
Why did we let Garza go? Why did we? All these things we're starting to kind of talk on the periphery. Where, sure, losing to FC Dallas is not a reason to say, well, necessarily bring McCann back and that will fix it. But these types of things are going to start being raised, and more questions are going to start being raised, especially if it's something that happens before the transfer window. The second thing I worry about is has he lost the locker room?
Or elements
to me,
of it.
I could care less if they're chanting or what the fans think.
Right.
If the players have faith in the coach, that's all I care about.
Yeah. I mean, I think right now,
and you're going to be one of the people on the front line to kind of have a pulse if it ever gets to that point. So I think the stories would start coming out well before it gets to that point.
I
anyways.
think right now the locker room like I wrote in the piece, like despite the narrative of progress and everyone saying, "Hey, we're playing better," it was a very, I said sober in the article. It's a sober locker room. There's little small talk. There's no music playing. No one's
spinning themselves into thinking.
Was satisfied with,
right.
Hey, we created a bunch of chances and we lost. It was not a happy locker room, and so that's the thing. Your coach could be Vicente del Bosque. You could be the winningest coach in European history, and you start losing games, the players, it affects them, and that is the danger. And I think that's what Joseph talked about. Like when you lose that mentality, that's where you lose faith in your teammates, in the system.
That's where you see the fissures and the factions start to form.
Yeah, in the manager. Like even if everyone's working their asses off, you're not getting the results. People start to check out, and so that's the danger. For Atlanta United, that's why I wrote. They're on the precipice of panic.
But on the positive
people start
side,
pressing their own personal panic buttons. That's where you start to lose.
We've seen now we're dealing with a different coach, a coach who's been there for a long time in Seattle. Not a long time, but he's been there for a while. So it's a different situation. Last season with Seattle, right? You weren't dealing with Metzer wasn't a new coach. Like he didn't just come in, and so. But that's a locker room that you would have expected at that point would have imploded. And yet they show time after time the ability to look at things in a sober fashion and say, and also maybe a lot of old school MLS guys, too, that understand the league.
They had a players-only meeting, too, Seattle.
Well,
right.
They also had to look at each other and say, Jordan Morris was huge for us, and not having him here
and we could say Miguel Almiron was huge for us, and we don't have that. But the thing is, I'm just saying, as a positive, as much as it's okay, this is where things could really go south. We've seen it's possible for teams to bond together over this stuff and stick together. But Metzer was not a new coach, right? No. This is not the same situation, I don't think. And also, I don't know how a lot of the players in Seattle have been with each other a long time. There's been some movement with our guys. I don't know. I mean,
are you two in the camp of Atlanta United should have succeeded Tata Martino with another Argentine South American?
I want to
coach?
Bielsa or Scalotto. I was all in for that. But at the same time, being Dutch and wearing the Dutch lion, I know what Frank de Boer was. Mm-hmm. But Frank de Boer from the Johan Cruyff school or Frank de Boer from the Louis van Gaal school, those are two very different people. So I feel like we're getting 100% Louis van Gaal, and that scares the ever-loving shit out of me because you're taking an attacking team and you're neutering them. And now if it were Johan
I think he tried. That's the kind of maybe what happened we talked about earlier is maybe he's trying to let off the gas a little bit on that.
I think.
Scalotto was a sexy name, right?
Yeah, and he was very much involved in the interview process. He had been talked to and everything.
Exactly. So when Frank de Boer came out of left field, I think I fell under this shimmer of Darren Eales and Carlos know something we don't.
Darren wanted him at Tottenham, and he chose Crystal Palace, and that was the biggest thing for me. But
for them to know that, right, and to still stand by, I'm thinking what do they know that what's their long term?
Part of this process.
What's their long term
agents
plan?
Agents reach out, agents promote.
But at the same time, would Paul McDonough go in and whisper in their ear, no, or I don't know, who are they talking to? Outside of Darren in a room with Carlos saying, "Oh man, he did a great PowerPoint." I mean,
because there's no Rayola, there's no.
We don't know what happened. What was it that sold them? Was it the idea of a long-term plan and the youth, and they just forgot about how the wheels can come off? If it doesn't matter what your long-term plan was, if the wheels come off and everybody's lost faith in you early in the season, you're not going to be around for 2 years because nobody's going to allow you. The fans are not going to allow you.
It looks like a long-term plan, and right now, this league and the way that the personnel of this team was.
You need homegrowns.
And you also need, but it's it's okay to have kind of a short-sighted view of things. Okay, we need to keep winning now. What will allow us to do that? Atlanta United doesn't have the academy yet, really. The homegrowns and the teams.
We also don't have a fan base that is used to a decade of mongering around into the middle of the table and barely making the playoffs. And our expectations are totally different.
Look at what that does to a team like Chicago. You know what I mean? Look at what it's done to that fan base when you muddle around and you focus on. Yeah, I mean, Dallas has had some success. They're an outlier.
They're an outlier because they can do the homegrown and academy thing. And
but also look at Toronto. I mean,
Toronto still has the highest paid or one of the highest paid players in the league.
But at the same time, when they were struggling last season, you didn't see their fan base completely panicking.
When do Canadians panic over anything?
Here's the thing: Atlanta reset. That was the risk, and the reason I asked like what camp were you guys in is because for several reasons. One, it's like look at Matias Almeida in San Jose. Would you guys have liked that hire for Atlanta? Probably. I mean, maybe. But here's the thing.
I wanted Garamendi. Asier Garamendi.
The thing that Argentine coaches like in that school of Tata and Almeida and Heinze and all these guys, and just look at what Matias wants to do in San Jose. It's like this different way of playing that like you just watch Primera.
He got a lot of criticism for it. 1v1.
Right.
1v1.
It's very like 1v1. Like I'm going.
And he
at
doesn't
you.
have the pieces for it. All this stuff.
He doesn't. but it's like he'll go to his grave doing it unless he gets called from by River Plate or Argentina. But the point is that that's what Tata was doing. It's like Tata understood that, okay, I know that I can win in this league playing this way with the right type of players. Give me the players that I want. We're going to do this. We're going to press. We're going to take risk and like, you know.
Do you think Frank de Boer just said the right things? I'm flexible.
I think
I can adapt.
Evolution, not revolution.
I'm not. Yeah, like these are the things we heard coming out of the mouth, and then it didn't feel like that happened.
Atlanta United essentially, and hiring Frank de Boer, whether he ends up being an excellent coach, and
it's too early to say. I think
it is too early, but still, it was almost like resetting because even back in 2017. I remember listening to, I think, the Coaches Academy on Sirius XM. It's like super nerdy of me, but like I was listening to it, and they had Tony Annan of the Academy, and he was bringing up ways like how to model, like how he wanted his like the Academy players to like kind of model what the first team was doing. The first team under Tata Martino, very different from the first team under Frank de Boer, and now it's like no, okay,
it's a shift.
What Glassy is doing at the twos, it's like they need to play the same way, like. Again, that's a philosophical argument we can have all night. Like, should the Academy play like the first team, or should the first team play like the Academy? Should it be one? I think Atlanta United is still trying to figure that out.
We're not a team that's been around for 20 years that has found a consistent framework that we want, right? And so I think Frank de Boer, they were looking at it. I'm saying, well, he knows how to build a framework.
Frank de Boer can coach. You know, at the academy level, it can bring academy players into a first team setup.
Then go coach the academy.
Now, but that's the thing.
Then go coach in the fucking academy.
Does he have that?
Glass in.
Yeah. Hey.
I'm serious. Like, I get the Ajax thing. Like, I love what he did. I love the 4-year run. He was also king catch-up. They started terribly every season with the talent that they have. With the Ericssons and the Alderweireld's.
Devon, this is good. This means that we're going to resurrect.
Well,
possibly.
I mean, maybe, but we're also not the Yankees of our league.
Right.
Like Ajax is the Yankees of the Eredivisie. Yeah. So the thing about this is you don't have time to catch up because you're going to get like.
I think we have time.
You drop points
against
league. Colorado. It's all alarms blaring.
But if you want the Supporters Shield. Yeah, we're losing ground.
Which should matter. And the fans need to understand that the Supporters Shield, in every other sense of the word, in every other league in the world, is the trophy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that I agree with. I mean, we're losing ground.
Playoffs is so Americanized.
Quickly, for a Supporters Shield, I think we're almost out of the race at this point.
The Supporters Shield was a bigger... At one point last season was a much bigger and higher objective than the MLS Cup.
Yep.
Than MLS Cup for
I said it in a thing. It was a crapshoot.
Isn't it always the big objective once the team realizes they may actually get close to getting it?
Because
you played 34 matches.
Then everybody talks a big game. They're like, "Oh yeah, Supporter Shield is definitely the most important thing."
Honestly,
when you're like points away from getting it.
If this were
before you choke in Toronto,
if there weren't playoffs and all that. Well, then the Supporter Shield would be everything.
Exactly.
It's absolutely it's what you play for. And so it still means a lot. And I don't know. I think Atlanta United can kiss that one goodbye unless they go on this tear.
And that sucks to hear. That really sucks to hear in April.
Unfortunately.
But I was always comfortable with not getting the Supporter Shield this year. I knew we were going to rebuild somewhat, and I knew losing Miguel was big. I couldn't foresee all these things like losing Garza, McCann, and all these things happening outside of that, injuries, whatever. I knew it was going to be a slow start. Didn't know CCL was going to wipe us out as much. So I kissed the Supporter Shield goodbye. I was like, oh, we're going to get in like, a low seed in the playoffs, and it's going to be very difficult. Because now the playoff format, we're going to be in tough shape if we're not 1 or 2.
They're I think, and unfortunately, it's April. is mathematically, can they still win the Supporters Shield? Probably.
They could go on a 24-match run.
But at this point,
if Vela and Rossi are arrested and put in jail for 6 months for something.
But at this point, it's like they have to make the playoffs, man.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of time for that. Honestly,
that's what I'm saying.
Considering that 7 teams get in, and at that point, it's like you just need to get in. Atlanta has every right to say, hey, we can still make the playoffs.
Cool.
But,
so you're the 1 seed going to D.C. in November. Or, sorry, you're the 7 seed.
Yeah. But still, I don't think. I mean, do you think? I still don't think Atlanta United is at the point where teams are like, yeah, we could play these guys. I still don't think.
I think they are.
If they were, they would come in like New England in the Benz and play at
They
us.
are bunkered. The blueprint to beat this team is there. It's do you have the athletes to do it?
It's
for
call
90
up
minutes?
Lucci and say, what did you do?
Yeah.
No,
That's
the blueprint is there.
Right.
I'm saying, do you have the blueprint is there? It's out. It's on film. It was done by DC. It was Columbus. I don't count because that's a slog fest. But every team knows bunker and counter, and you can beat them. Now, can you stop them on offense? That's on your defense. But we'll show you how to beat this team. It's there.
What
It's
happens?
The tactics
So
don't.
what happens if we, let's say we draw Colorado?
At home, and we're talking about 3 points from 12.
So
it wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be a good look.
I'd say tune into Atlanta United Fan TV shortly afterwards.
Here's the problem, and here's my problem, right? Because two things. We have Colorado coming up next, right, on Saturday. It's another weird time. It's a 6 p.m. game. I hate those games. I hate them. Give me night games all day long. The vibe is different. I don't like afternoon games. And then
the tailgate
you have after that you have Sporting KC, which have
on the road?
recently been spotty, but we know that when they put best foot forward, they can kill you.
That's blue hell.
Yeah, they're a team that it just does not look good for us after that. After that, we face Toronto, which is always a battle last season, right?
It's going to be a battle.
And that was when
too.
that's when they were at the bottom.
The bottom of their
and
bottom.
we were at the top, and it was now his roles are reversed.
Wasn't
right?
that a 2-2 draw at home?
Yeah, they're second.
But that's my point. Is that yes, teams can smell blood. They can see. Hey, I think that's what Dallas did. And this is the question that I'll pose to everyone: is Mercedes-Benz Stadium an intimidating place to play right now?
I don't think so. I think fans have said it's very quiet, especially an early goal. If you get that early goal, what it's shown is that it gets pretty quiet in there.
It was a factor.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the goal in the 47th minute right after halftime against Philadelphia.
Whereas in some of these other stadiums where you have the rafters and stuff like that, the supporter section can carry through that because the sound will overplay whatever is happening else in the stadium.
And I've got to
say
it.
The bowl is part of that, is really a part of that.
But listen, this isn't about acoustics. It's about teams understanding Atlanta United is in a bad place. I think we can really go in.
But it's a
Atlanta
piece of it, taking the crowd out of it, knowing you can.
For an entire season last year, Mercedes-Benz was very difficult for other teams. I think Portland.
We go down, we get louder.
Portland just couldn't. They didn't
remember
they couldn't
that.
Hang.
We would go down a goal. Yeah. We would get louder.
Yeah,
let's go.
Several teams have been deer in headlights in Atlanta in Mercedes-Benz, but that's the danger of not winning games.
Gee, you think calling the fans spoiled had anything to do with that?
You know what? But at the same time,
I'm just saying. No, you kill enthusiasm with bullshit like that. You bring in a guy who speaks like this at all the times and calls the fans spoiled for winning championships. Like. That honestly, I said it in my fan cam. If you want to see Mercedes-Benz become an empty cavern, keep playing this way and let Orlando Trustfall and Frank DeBoer do interviews.
I think this is some of the stuff of a young team too, because you're used to Tata Martino, and you're like, well, he never even spoke that much. He was very guarded with what he would say,
but when he did, he was just so.
He wasn't calling in a 92.9.
No,
but you know what I mean.
But he was very transparent.
There's a downside to that too.
Yeah.
There's a downside to having the coach that accessible. Because when he's not good at it, that means he's the face, becoming the face all the time.
Yeah, and
in marketing, you know all about that. You're building a brand. Now, Frank is becoming part of that brand.
Yeah,
and that monotone and all that sort of stuff. It's all
true.
part of the psychology of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that
there's nothing engaging.
And that stuff is not that important when you're winning, but it's very important when you're losing.
Boring interviews, boring football.
And then after that, the reason why I'm really concerned is this. At the end of the day. As a selfish fan, this is what all I care about.
Orlando.
Is that this is a ramp up to the Orlando match. This is a start of a run that gets us playing Orlando as early as May 8th.
It's an 8. Yeah.
I'm sorry, May 12th.
Yeah,
May 12th. That's like right around the corner. If we lose to Orlando at home, like I
For
can't,
the first time
I don't even
in-
know what to say. Like I couldn't fathom. So we better start improving because
You'd
Orlando.
see me going full Mel Gibson from South Park.
Orlando's building confidence.
I'll bet I'm
They're a
sure
different team.
Orlando's looking forward to that match.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
way things are going.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how professional sports work. It's like the team you've never beaten, you need something. You need some kind of
It was
glimmer of
us with
hope.
Red Bulls.
Right.
Last year, beating them 3-0 virtually sealed the Eastern Conference
Right.
Final. And it literally gave the team such a boost that I still think they were riding that high all the way through to MLS Cup Final because they knew that they had gotten the monkey off their back.
Yeah.
Same thing in beating DC.
Sure.
You
True.
know, beating DC in the second match of the season, coming off the Houston loss, is what jump-started that run. Like I said, we were 4-1-1 after 6 games after being beat, 4-0 in Houston in the season opener. So to go on runs like that, you need a catalyst. And I don't know what the catalyst is. It's certainly not going to be Colorado. If you beat Colorado, hey, they suck. All right? If you then go out, I mean, like, that's the thing, though. The alternative is if you go out and you have another performance and you lay an egg against Colorado, all gloves off.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like there is not an excuse. Like he said, you cannot play another excuse card. Like, and even if you win, it's papering over the cracks unless it's 7-0 like we did to New England, and you see a complete 180 from what we saw last
I
week.
just want to see consistency over this next few matches. So, I mean,
What's consistency in the next 4? Those next 4 matches you mentioned, we said they are.
I just like to see a solid conversion rate. Like if you're going to put
Joseph
20
scoring. I mean,
Yeah,
and not to
just
not to like, oh, Joseph isn't scoring, but like that would just change everything for this team.
or PT
To
puts
see-
away a screamer.
Yeah, like
something, a
if I-
catalyst.
you need
We
your
paid big
stars.
money for game
You
changers.
need
I
your
want to start
stars.
seeing
You need
somebody
your stars
carry
to
a game
perform.
once in
If
a while.
I told you in the next
You need
4
your
you're going to
stars.
go 2-1-1, would you take
At
it?
some point, the players have to start taking responsibility and playing it and converting these chances and doing this.
Did you get that question? If I told you in the next 4 matches you go 2-1-1, but I don't tell you who you lose and I don't tell you who you draw, would you take it?
2-1-1 at this point?
2-1-1.
That's sad, but yeah.
How sad is that?
Like, give it to me. Like, if that was like,
7 points from 12 sounds real
if that was
nice
one of
right
those
now.
like I can 100% guarantee the 2-1-1, or I can give you a 15% guarantee or a 50% guarantee on a 3-win. Like, I would go with the 2-1. Like, give that to me.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Now Atlanta United is in that dangerous territory where it's like, okay, well, you better just win. What if they beat Colorado with a 90th minute own goal?
Yeah.
And it's like that's the win. It's like they don't put anything.
fans
to
aren't gonna
sleep
buy
yet.
that.
No, it's like
Yeah.
it's they've
Our
put
fan base is
themselves-
too smart for that. You know,
Yeah,
it's just
the
not
team
gonna
has
happen.
put themselves with their results in this precarious situation where now everything is a must win, but
Yeah.
you can't just win now. Like
Well,
you have to win convincingly. You have to
it's-
play the attractive soccer that the brand is this brand is about, that this club is about.
So basically, what you're
eventually.
asking me is if Atlanta United pull an Arsenal against Watford and their goalkeeper kicks it into Aubameyang's foot in the 3rd minute, and then they get a red card in the 9th minute, and then they still control the rest of the play, and we win because of that 3rd minute thing, I'll be livid.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's where this club is right now.
Yeah.
That's where they are, and like, yes, there's probably a portion of fans that are like, just win, baby, just give me the win, and we're good. We just need the 3 points, and from there we'll grow.
Well, that's what happens
but
with
there are other people
expectations.
that are like, no, it's not good enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's what they've become accustomed
There's
to.
no right answer. Like, what, if for the guy that, like, I'll take one win and then, that buys us some time. Great. That's not a wrong answer to me. That's how you feel. And then some people, like we're talking, we want to see consistency. We want to see that continued improvement. So,
Hold on, real quick. The 98 Falcons went to the Super Bowl at 14-2. The 99 Falcons went 5-11. So, like, I don't want to make that comparison for Atlanta sports.
I just
but
don't
that's
want to
what
make
I
NFL
see.
comparisons.
Well,
ever
at all,
again.
but okay, or I mean, there's just so many comparisons of Atlanta sport. The 60-win Hawks team that then becomes the 24-win Hawks team. I'm so tired of seeing the peak of the mountain and then just going screw it. I don't need to hike down. I'm just going to jump off.
The day we start seeing Braves Tiger Woods memes migrate into Atlanta United Twitter, we know we're in trouble.
True.
So guys, some
Tiger DeBoer.
This is a great topic here as we transition. This has been a long podcast, but I think there's a lot to talk about and unpack.
A spirited podcast.
Yeah,
Much
I like it.
The training session. I saw
Yeah. But we have an upcoming event. We alluded to it when we talked about the Soccer Over There fundraiser the other day with Jessica. She is on Team Columbia for ATL Nations Cup.
I am on Team Columbia as well.
Felipe is also on the Loaded. You guys raised like $10,000 or something outrageous.
I've been terrible. I'm the worst fundraiser.
Yeah, you don't show up to fundraisers. You don't raise money. You just come. You're the guy that comes in. Someone made empanadas. You take it. You stop in. You say hi, and then you're like, "Can I take some of these to go?"
I'll write about it in the Athletic for you guys.
Exactly.
And they're like, "Where'd Felipe go?" I don't know, but there's like 7 less empanadas now. So, all right. So that's if you're interested, that's at Grady Stadium in Midtown Atlanta, and you can go to soccerstreets.org and find out and see all the teams listed there. If you want to donate to Team Columbia, then you can go there and do that as well. It's from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Sunday. You can check that out. And then also iTunes reviews. We have 81 iTunes reviews. When we get to 100, we'll do a giveaway. If you want to be part of the giveaway, we need to see your name, and the only way we can see your name is if you actually write a review. Just hitting the stars does not do it. So leave us a review. We'll read it on the podcast, and you'll be entered for the giveaway when we hit 100.
And I have a little update as well. On Saturday, April 27th, I will be hosting the Schalke versus Dortmund derby at Brewhouse. So be sure to come on out. They're going to be having a free German breakfast, and when Schalke scores, there's a free round on Schalke US. So if you're following me on Twitter at Devon4Real, there's a sign up for it. Let us know if you're going to be coming out and support the Bundesliga.
Yes, and Tanner will be there as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Also coming up with Unrelegated and Atlanta United Fan TV, Devon, Tanner, myself, Jessica, I believe, as well, and her husband. We will all be in New York City in May for the Red Bulls match, or New Jersey as well. We'll be in both. Mostly we're going to stay in Manhattan and then only go to New Jersey when we really have to. But
that trek to Harrison.
Yeah, so we have all sorts of stuff planned for that. You can bet your ass we're going to do some fucking recording. It's going to be a good one. I just realized we hadn't sworn the entire podcast.
I have.
Yeah,
you haven't.
Okay, I just need to get that.
I think I said freaking at one point.
Yeah.
I was like, can I swear?
I mean, even Ricky Bevington said shit, Felipe.
Oh, okay.
So if Georgia Public Broadcasting can say shit.
Yes.
And then just as a final rundown, where can they find you again, Devon?
At Devon, Devon, the number 4, REAL, Devon4Real on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can also check out Atlanta United Fan TV at Atlanta United Fan TV on Instagram and
ATL UTD Fan TV on Twitter.
And then, Felipe, where can find you and The Athletic and all that fun stuff?
Follow me at Felipe, CAR, at Felipe Carr, and then make sure you follow The Athletic Soccer at The Athletic SCCR.
Because Cardenas was too many characters, man.
There's a lot of Felipe Cardenas out there. And guys, subscribe. Come on.
Yeah, and Felipe,
Absolutely.
You're missing out because we're going to go to Breeze's and have some empanadas when we're up there at Rebels. Well, maybe, I'd bring some back, but that'd be kind of weird. They might be old by then.
I don't want that.
So I wouldn't do that. Although we get our own at the tailgate now. Did you see that at the tailgate? Yeah, we have like a whole empanada mafia that's like starting to get together.
You just gave him a name.
Yeah, I did. Maybe
La
I did.
Empanada.
Yeah. So, guys, like, subscribe, and share this episode if you're watching us on Atlanta United Fan TV. Thank you again if you're still listening on all the podcatchers. We appreciate you. Find us at Unreal ATL on all the social media. You can find me at JAY_Riddle on Twitter. Kelly's at The Kelly Francis on all the social media. And Jessica is at Jessica ATL UTD on Twitter. Thanks, guys. And, we'll hang in there. We'll see you. We'll talk to you after the Colorado match, and then we'll maybe cry a little bit, or maybe we'll rejoice. I don't know. We'll maybe do another hour and a half podcast if we lose Colorado.
That sounds like awesome.
Peace out, guys.